Roll call, please.
Trustee Pat,
Here.
trustee Dawson. Here. Trustee Rivera,
Here.
trustee Carolyn Swanson,
Here.
superintendent Boras,
Here.
assistant superintendent Chin Bendit.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay. The agenda. Dr. Porras, are there changes to the agenda?
No, Mr. President, at this point, the agenda is as posted.
Okay, thank you. I have a request for a change. I'd like to pull item N from consent and move it right after consent. We will follow up on that very specifically. Item N is please contract services with Pacific West Water Purification at FPE. Okay, so we will do consent and then we'll immediately after that. That changed. I have a motion to accept.
So moved.
Motion made by Christie Dawson, seconded by Rivera. All in favor?
You don't need roll call, I don't think anymore.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Swanson?
Aye.
I'll go into closed session, consider matters appropriate for closed session. Government code. One consideration of student discipline. One discipline dismissal of this complaint. I'll move. Correct?
We are moving.
Got me some stuff. But I'm ready.
Okay, it's 7:30, 6:30. Wow, I'm already an hour early. We're coming back from closed session. In closed session, we discussed consider the case of student discipline. We considered the public employee discipline dismissal of the complaint. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance. Okay, so I have a favor. Ms. Swanson on.
Yes.
At any time you stop hearing me, would you be kind enough to send me a text? I have this feeling my voice will shrink. Thank you. Ms. Swanson is doing it. Mr. Swanson is not here tonight. He was in closed session for some communication, but he is okay, written communication. We have a lot of written communication between the last board meeting and this board meeting. We had dozens of letters concerning student discipline. Really, some were fanned by the friends and social media and really filled with misinformation. Many include the words insert name here. There were personal letters in support of district and policy in the student body, and some of those expressing fear of repercussions for even mentioning support. Those letters have been answered. We have an action that was already taken. There's a lot of letters concerning, and again, I'm not going to count. COVID and start outside masking, bring back hand washing, on-site testing. Frankly, the letters that I've seen from parents, I really commend our parents. I commend people who are in our teachers who have come up and not said, hey, this is hard. I mean, there's a couple of words, but most of them are exceptionally positive, and I'm very happy and I appreciate those letters. And frankly, I think we are taking as many as we can, as much as we can to heart, to try and implement and bring back stuff. There's already been at least one change. Mr. Talley sent that out last night. I have a letter concerning sports and CIF and COVID. I will forward that to Mr. Garcia. Letters concerning digital learning and possible return to DL. Dr. Forrest might respond on that. Concerns on independent studies being offered in responsiveness. Certainly concerns about social distancing, 3 feet, eating in classroom outside and masking outside, and requests for additional on-site vaccinations. So quite a bit. I do not try and count. So thank you all, and for those who have COVID and start cases, whether or not we're attending and really positive and trying. Board member comments. You will start. Mr. Beyond.
In the past few weeks, there's been a great deal of community involvement and concern about me serving as the ASB president at Pacific Grove High School. That involvement and concern has been focused on a video posted of me in 2019 on Snapchat saying an inappropriate and hurtful word and posing a Confederate flag and gas. I want to start by sincerely apologizing for using this term and telling everyone how much I regret saying that word in the fall of 2019 and it was Snapchat post. I know how insensitive my actions were, and I know saying sorry is not enough. I am deeply embarrassed by my stupid and thoughtless actions, but I hope that I have matured a bit in the past 2 years. In truth, because I have great respect for the Black community and truly believe that we are all equal, I am disgusted with myself remembering that I have made a comment like this and posts. I certainly was younger and made a serious mistake that now I regret. But I know I cannot erase my past, and that the only way I can correct the course I was on is by my actions. In running for and being elected ASB president, I hope to make PG High a safe environment in which everyone is comfortable being themselves. Of course, I wish that I never made the comment or the post, but I have had the opportunity to learn and reflect on my actions. When I look back at the kid I was 2 years ago, I now realize that I was insecure about myself. And I didn't think that I was okay, just the way I was. And in my own insecurity, I made a very hurtful and disrespectful comment in a post in an effort to make people laugh and like me. If I could go back and tell the younger me anything, it would be that I'm okay just the way I am, and that I don't need to make any comments at the expense of others or post anything just to gain attention to make some people laugh. Back then, I would walk around thinking everyone else was on a pedestal. I thought everyone was better than me. I was afraid to be myself around people because I felt like they wouldn't accept me for who I am. Now that I have the chance to step back and reflect on what I've done, I realize that no one is better than me. I also know that I'm not the only person who feels this way, afraid that they won't be accepted where they are, and I hope my experience can be instructive for all of us. We are who we are, and our community is better when we value each other and respect each other just the way we are. My goal as ASB president was to show by my behavior these values and encourage others to do the same. People should not have to work for acceptance. People should not have to do things they know is wrong just because they want to feel included or important. Everyone is living a challenging life. Everyone makes mistakes, and most of us wish we could take them back, but we can't. We can only change our future actions and make ourselves better people. I think that the students at PG High should hold themselves to a higher standard, not only academically, but socially. At PG High, we're not just classmates or peers, we are a family. My actions have not only hurt the people in the community, but I've hurt my mother, my father, and my sister, and for that I must take responsibility. I am stepping down and resigning as the ASB president at Pacific Grove High School because my thoughtless actions have become a distraction. This distraction is not what students, my family, the school, or our community need. It is not what I want. While I will not be serving as an ASB president this year, it is my intent to model the values of our school and community and my parents by being who I am and supporting each and every student who may struggle the way I did 2 years ago. Thank you to all my friends and family for your support and encouragement and helping me grow and becoming a better person. Thank you.
Thank you. We will continue with board member comments. Mr. Dr. Rivera. Well, I have a list of comments I want to make there. I think I'll just skip to the so there's we received several communications as noted by President Pat, and early in the week when we got the first, or actually much longer than that before we went on break, and found out what the situation was. I was disgusted as victim of someone who had similar thing spat in my face. That was so painful for me to watch my community jump on this line in that fashion. Members of the community know about historical practices, but Mr. Young is an example of that. This is what we work towards. We're a family here in Silver Grove.
First of all, Anthony, thank you so much for speaking tonight. I can't even start to think how hard that was. I don't think anybody you would ask would condone his use of language or photos, or it's just something that we deal with all the time now as parents and community members with the internet, Snapchat, social media. And I think when I think of education, I think of that word that we hear a lot, teachable moments. I think what's happened here is not just a moment of foolishness, but something that is now out there. It's floating out there. It doesn't disappear. I've worked with young students in my past that have taken some photos that continue to show up a couple of years later over and over and over and will forever. So I really respect what you did today. I can't even start to think what this has done emotionally, psychologically. This the letters, some were written from the heart, and many were, you know, he's not kidding with the insert name here. The time was not even taken to put their names in it. It was just to jump on the bandwagon and go after them. I think as parents, we have to teach our kids what's right. And that's imperative. But these are kids. This is not an executive in a company or a politician, and you don't get full transparency. It's dealt with privately. And there has to be a level of trust and faith in the community that we're not here and we're hearing about how white we are and you know, we just let that stuff roll. It's unfair. It's unfair to the entire community. It's extremely unfair to admin and to the school with the supposition that nothing happened. How dare this go on? It's not right. So take a breath and know that people are working diligently and consistently to reflect the values that we all hold here. It's sad it has to end like this, but I kind of think it has to end like this. And my hope for Anthony is knowing him, I was able to teach him in PE and get to know him fairly well many years back. And he's a good kid, and he did something deplorable. Everybody agrees, but he's a kid. And the impulsive, as we all know now through science, about the age of 25, it clicks in, wow, I should think about this before I do it. And if you work with youngsters, you know that just is missing a lot. So I would just urge, be kind, be respectful, and again, take a breath and let the system work. It happened in the summer, so it's a bizarre thing. We're floating out, it's COVID, but I think the result is there. And I think enough said for me too, but please be kind. Teach your kids. It doesn't go away. And I worry for college, for career, for everything. So if we can impart that to our youngsters, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dawson. Ms. Swanson.
Thank you, John. I'm assuming you all can hear me. I'm going to speak up and speak as clearly as I can. I have a couple of board comments tonight, and I'll start with our COVID-19 dashboard on our PGUSD website. I was pleased to see that there, and if there's COVID cases that folks are curious about, it's a really good resource for our community to go to pgusd.org and click on the COVID resources tab for that. And then related to our e-school, which is our option for families to learn from a distance, to learn not in person. We do have this option for families, and I'm just hoping that as time goes on, if families choose to use it, that they do still feel included in our district and are still able to get emails from our district. And I think as the year goes on, we may have more people signing up for that. So I just wanted to mention it. I'm sure we'll mention it again later tonight, but that is an option. And then lastly, my longest comment is I want to thank everyone who wrote into the board. I wanted to mention that our current board protocols are that trustees, otherwise known as board members, we can respond and acknowledge the receipt of your email, but the board president is the only one who responds more thoroughly. And from the emails that we received this week about the bias incident, the bias incident is very painful. It's deplorable, and I am so sorry for the pain that it has caused our community. I keep asking myself, what is in my lane of authority? Trustees do not elect ASB presidents, nor do we have the authority to recall them. But what role can I play as a trustee in healing and uniting our community while keeping all the students safe? So as a trustee, we are policymakers for the district. There is power in policy. I would like to see our board do more work to clearly address harassment and bias-motivated incidents in our policies. I would also like to see our district commit to tolerance and equity work. And I have put together some resources that I will email to Dr. Porras so that we can hopefully move forward on that. I'm really hopeful that my colleagues on the board will be open to this need for updating policy, this need for change, and be able to use this incident as an opportunity to review and improve policy, as well as education work on tolerance and equity for our board and our staff. And then if you are a member of the public tonight and you feel that equity work is important for our district and for our board to work on, please do let us know in your comments tonight. I strongly believe it's worthwhile, but I'm only one member on the board, and so we do need a majority on the board to support this type of work so that we can move forward. Thank you.
I have no further comments at this point. I think it's been said, well said. So,
You need to turn it on.
Superintendent report, Dr. Forrest, and I have a request, could we potentially comment on COVID? You know, as it turns out, I think I was presumptive in dropping the COVID minute in the information part of our thing, and later on, board, I think I'll ask if we can put that back on, get some consensus on perhaps doing that, since it appears that we hoped it was going away in June, and a couple weeks ago, and we made the thing, but it's not. So you would include that in your comments, if you can. That'd be great.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm happy to do so. First off, I want to also echo the comments from our board president in regards to appreciation for the public sharing letters in all aspects of the work that we do. Firstly, for the letters in regards to COVID and our response, we've gotten lots and lots of letters, lots and lots of recommendations for what we can do to help our children be safer, more safe. Much of it reflected on our elementary students, who are at this point our most vulnerable students, as they're unvaccinated, and trying to figure out how we can make it as safe as we can, operating within the confines, of course, of the California Department of Public Health and the Monterey County Health Department. I'll just say that those two agencies don't always see eye to eye, and when they don't, it creates a confusion that puts us right in the middle. And so we try to decipher what we can in terms of practice and policy. So I'll comment on some of the pieces we're doing in just a minute, but I do appreciate the letters of recommendations. Before I do that, I just want to make a couple reflective comments. I think I'm doing this if I do. Like Dr. Yvette, I've had plenty of instances in my life experienced racism directed at me directly by my father and my parents, the son of a Mexican immigrant farming family. It wasn't always easy. And watching the events that transpired, it was very difficult for me, lots of ways. From my heritage and my background experience and the things that I have, it was very, very difficult to watch that. 31 years in education balanced that for me as well. I worked with lots and lots of students, opening up bilingual classrooms in elementary school, working with middle school students from very diverse backgrounds, working with their parents and their families in very high need areas. And I can say that as an educator, it's affected the way that I deal with things in life. If we can help our young people understand the mistakes they make, help them to learn from that, to grow from that, especially if they're remorseful, especially if they're looking to grow from it, especially if they're reaching out. Who are we as adults to turn away from any student, any child who comes to us asking for help in whatever way that may be? So our roles as educators are to provide that support. So in this instance, I want to assure the public, because I did receive a number of letters that insinuated that the district did nothing. And that was far from the truth. But we are bound by confidentiality for students under 18 years of age. We can't share what we do. And oftentimes, members of the public or members of the press will take advantage of that and say that silence in some way insinuates some inaction or inactivity. And all we can do is sit and watch it. And that's very, very hard, because we have a story to share, but we can't. So I assure the community we took a lot of time and energy, support, understanding, to work with the situation to make it safer for our students throughout the district and for our families. And we will continue to do that. I appreciate all of the students that engaged this conversation. I appreciate the passion that they brought with it, to care for their colleagues, their peers, from whatever angle they took. I think it was important that we hear student voices. I want to acknowledge also Mr. Biondi for being willing to accept and accept that the community was concerned, and accept his actions and his thoughts and what he did, and also respect the fact that he brought that remorse and tried to make better of it. And as a teacher, that's probably the most we can ask for our students. So we will continue to work on this, as Trustee Swanson has mentioned. We do have policies around equity. I wouldn't go as far as to say tolerance, it's more acceptance. Tolerance infers that we're putting up with something we may not want to. We work with the administrative team. In fact, this summer we worked on it as well. We've done a lot of work around bias. We've done a lot of work around what equity truly means for students and how we reflect that equity in the practices that we have. We will continue to reflect on that and work on that and gladly take on the challenge of how that policy affects our students. So I thank everybody in the community for their support and for their voice. Public education is important because it reflects a democracy, and we need to hear all our voices. So thank you for that. And I'll leave it at that. In regards to COVID, yes, there's a lot going on. It's been very challenging over the course of the last 2.5, 3 weeks to try to figure out how to implement practice in our schools based on a really changing dialogue at the state level. Really, at this point, where the California Department of Public Health has left us is essentially in a grand way. Students are coming to school in person. Our vaccines available for students 12 years and older, and students families who feel their children may not be safe in the school setting and in person have the opportunity to enroll in an independent studies program that offers some kind of e-school or digital learning for them while they are out of the main school setting. As you know, Pacific Grove, as a small school, is very hard to wield a robust independent studies program. We have been in partnership with North Monterey County Unified School District for a long time with independent studies. We engaged with them this summer to help us enroll students for the e-school program that they have. We have about 22 students or so enrolled currently. They've been great partners. I ask for your patience with them. It may take a little longer than expected to enroll. Part of that is simply because there are a lot of steps that the state has put into place for allowing that enrollment. And none of those steps are easy and none of them are fast. There's bureaucracy at work. So we're trying to just get our students into schools, get them working in the program so we can move forward. There may be some changes coming down the line and we'll reflect on that. For our students right now that are in person, the district has a regulation that all students and all adults and visitors who are on our campuses inside our facilities, indoors, must wear masks. According to the California Department of Public Health, masks outside are optional, although all of our principals and our sites highly recommend it. And in truth, if you go on our campuses, the vast majority of students are still wearing their masks outside. And when they're eating, they take it off and then put it back on. So that's been very good. We are obviously trying to figure out how we're going to make events like the shoe game coming up soon at our stadium. How is that going to look and how's that going to work? We're going to follow the ordinances that we have. At this point, just literally 2 hours ago, CIF released an announcement about outdoor sporting events, simply to say that, well, follow the Department of Public Health regulations and do your best. So we're going to do our best. But we're trying to follow those regulations and post them as we can on the COVID resources page. We're pushing out as much as we can in terms of social media and email when we can. We notify all of our sites, our personnel at the sites when there's a COVID case on site. We let everyone know what's happening in that regards. It is important to note that, again, we are working with minors and we are working with medical conditions. So when a COVID case becomes positive on a campus, we simply cannot let everybody know who the students are, but we inform those closest to the situation through contact tracing. We do have contact tracing. We're following the guidelines by our Monterey County Health Department in that regards. Families who need to be contacted are being contacted. Our district nurse Callie, she's it. She is doing an amazing amount of work. And when one case comes up, it can involve upwards of 16 hours of contact, phone calls, tracing, and she's doing a lot of that work on her own, and we're getting her help, but it's taking some time. We are also, and by way of updates, we're also looking right now at bringing more rapid tests to the district. We have quantum tests here at the district office every Monday, free of charge. However, we understanding that the waiver review rules work with for students who have been close contacts, testing is now required. In fact, for unvaccinated, so think elementary students who are close contacts to a COVID positive student, they must receive 2 tests within 10 days. First test cannot happen any sooner than 3 days and no later than the end of the 5th day. So basically think end of day 3, 4, 5. If the proof of the negative test does not come in, then that student is not allowed to continue the modified quarantine in the classroom until a negative test is produced, up until the end of the 10-day modified quarantine. If this is confusing, we haven't posted for you. We've been pushing it out. It takes a lot of time to drop this, but know there's a process in place for that. We are trying to get more testing. We're trying to get rapid testing. We think we'll be able to do that. And we're also looking at getting on-site testing at our school sites to make it easier for our students and families to be able to access that. Availability and access are a little bit of an issue, so we're working through it, but we think we're gaining some pretty good ground on that. Stay tuned. We'll let you know as soon as we know more, but that is certainly on its way. There has been mentioned a request for at-home testing kits. Monterey Peninsula is investigating and working with that. They run into some challenges with that. Some of that requires mailing to UPS, and there's been some disaster stories of some of the reports getting lost and taking more time. So we're learning what they're doing so we don't make the same mistakes. We'll investigate that as well. And last but not least, and there's so much, we'll make sure that we send out, hopefully tomorrow, on Monday, kind of sort of a summary of everything we've been doing so far again. And so please do keep an eye on our webpage. The district does have a COVID database, which shows it's currently up to date today on cases, positive COVID cases at our site. We currently have 7 positive student cases over the course of the last 3 weeks at our elementary sites and 4 staff cases. We're probably below average of what we're hearing from the other districts in the county, but we know who those families are and we're working with them to the best we can. That's my best impromptu COVID report for Mr. President, and I can sort of come up with more.
Well, since I kind of put you on the spot, I appreciate that information and your comments in general. We will move on to PGUSD staff comments. Member of staff, please step up to the mic.
Mary Kindermel, I am doing this at Fort Elementary. And I know I only have 3 minutes, so I wrote it down, so I will be very quick. Prior to this year, PGUSD would only accept 6 to 10 years of service credit from another district and be hired. This year, they increased the years of service credit for teachers from an outside district to 16 years. But I'm aware of because only being given to new employees, not current employees that have been in the district prior to this year. The reason I'm bringing this up is because PGUSD teachers with the same number of years of service as a new hire are being paid less. My assumption is that it's an oversight. And because I know the district does not devalue any teacher that has put their, heart, sweat, and tears into this district, as we all have. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody was aware that that's happening. Thank you.
Thank you. At this point, I see no other.
Sean Cullen.
Well, you can ask us and you can help you. Okay, yes, there we go. Mr. Keller.
All right, thank you, President Path. First off, I wanted to thank the greater PGUSD community for your words of hope and kindness when I was sick and out the first week of school. I definitely want to thank Matt Bell for covering me. He was incredible. I want to thank my staff, my families, and my students for a gracious welcome when I came back to school last week. And I want to say thank you to, again, the Robert Down community for everything we're going through right now with our positive cases of COVID. I do want to say congratulations to Robert Down's own Erica Chavez, who was anonymously recognized for the Monterey County Weekly as a teacher of the county, and you can vote for her at the Monterey County Weekly. And she's going to get some stiff competition. But I want to just congratulate Erica. I know she's an outstanding teacher, and whoever nominated her knew what they were doing. So good job, Erica. Go Otters. And thank you again, everyone in the community, for your kind words.
Mr. Keller, do we have any other hand raised?
iPad.
Hi, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, go ahead. We can
Oh,
hear-
hi, okay. I'm with PGTA, and you know, with the COVID cases rising, there's a lot of concern with the teachers union regarding, you know, if classes have to shut down and/or, you know, our contract right now is that we are in person. And the special ed department has been discussing some situations where there are teachers perhaps doing in-person and distance learning. So I just wanted that noted that we're in discussion on this, because that's, you know, we're not quite sure what's going on with that, but there is a concern there with the teachers union.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate you being there.
Shannon McCarty.
Shannon,
Oh, wait, no, maybe she's clapping. Sorry.
nobody in the chat can do the hand raise. With that, we'll move on to individuals desiring to address the board. Public comment of any interest to the public within the board's jurisdiction will be heard. The board will limit comments to no more than 3 minutes for each agenda or non-agenda item, and the total time for public comment is 20 minutes pursuant to board policy 9322. Public comment will be allowed on each specific action prior to board action thereon, and we would suggest and ask that you, if you have an item on the agenda, please do that at that time. This meeting of the Board of Education is a business meeting of the board conducted in public. Note the Brown Act limits the board's ability to respond to public comment. May choose to direct items to administration for action or place an item on future agenda. Any member of the public wishing to speak? Open comment. No, we'll take care of it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay. Hello, hi. I come here as a Black person to speak on the situation that has arisen over social media and how I feel about it, and to state how I'm, you know, kind of feeling. You stated something earlier about how it feels when people constantly point out how white you are. I've had the fact that I'm Black be pointed out since I was barely born, from elementary school through middle school to high school. Being the only Black kid in the class, when they're talking about slavery and they all look at me. I've constantly had that happen my entire life. We talk about how this has affected him, but how has this affected all the students of color who saw that video, or students of color, period, who saw the photos, who heard about it, any of these things? Yes, some of the comments that were said, we can say they were too far, or they were too aggressive, or whatever. But when you are a person of color and you've experienced violent harassment for being a person of color, that's nothing in comparison to the things that you've seen. Going about my everyday life, I'm at work. Someone tells my boss I don't want her to touch my food. I'm the only Black person at my job along with a bunch of white people. Why don't you want me to touch your food, but you're fine with everyone else touching your food? I experience these things every day. So we can say, you know, it's awesome that he came up here and he spoke, but he laid these actions upon himself. And to rise him up and say, oh, go you, I'm so happy for you. It's kind of insulting, because no one tells me I'm so thankful that you got through that when that person called you the N-word. I'm so happy for you when somebody called you a monkey on the playground. Nobody did that to me growing up.
But we're gonna put him on a pedestal for coming up here and doing what he had to do. And we can say, you know, it's awesome that he said these things, but he had to say these things. I mean, you know, he didn't have to, but he did have to. Or else he would be continuing to be pelted with different things on social media and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So while I have to go through my everyday life as a Black person and have words pelted at me on the daily, he's going to continue to go on through his life, and this is going to be brushed away. And he's never going to have to think about this again once it finally goes over. I can't hide my skin, but he can eventually get past this. I can't get past my skin. So I hope that actual things came into consideration and that you guys actually did things behind the scenes for this student. Because as a Black student who's had things happen to them on campus and they knowingly knew that nothing happened, I genuinely hope that something did happen. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, can y'all hear me? I will, this, okay. To the PGUSD board, educators, parents, and community members present, my name is Ezra, and I'm here as a lifelong community of Monterey County. I appreciate the engagement of the community to hold the student, Mr. Biondi, accountable for his past actions embodying white supremacy and violence. My comment tonight is not directed at the student, but rather at the gross negligence of PGUSD administration for defending white supremacy rather than holding white supremacy accountable as it happens. Board members tonight have defended whatever confidential actions they took in the case, and yet Mr. Biondi was allowed to continue serving as ASB president and as running back of the football team. Allowing racism to happen without real and impactful accountability on your campuses allows white supremacy to fester in a community that already has a history with white supremacy violence, and a KKK presence. As a teachable moment, let's talk about white fragility. I frankly don't believe that the feelings of the board or the impacts of Mr. Biondi are heavier than the fears of non-white community members in this city and in PG schools. Yeah, we'll move this. I believe in restorative justice in this case. Let's educate not just Mr. Biondi, but the students and the teachers about how to be critical about race issues. The fear of getting shot by a white supremacist shooter is a very real fear that students, and particularly non-white students, have to live with in America. And that's in large part due to the inaction of the adults entrusted with the care of our community's youth. This board needs to implement anti-racist programming for the students, faculty, and the board. Counseling systemically across the board. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hey, my name is Kara Masterson, and I'm here today to address all of you as a parent, a concerned parent of a biracial family that I have. I currently have a child enrolled at PG High School, and I have 2 older children who previously attended school here as well. In the past, and still today, it's an issue with race and how it is handled by faculty in the district. Each one of my children has either personally experienced racism or witnessed it firsthand while attending PG schools. My daughter, who's currently a junior at the high school, has been involved in 2 different racial occurrences during her time in the school district. Once in middle school, and one as recently as last year during distance learning. In my experience, these issues are dealt with by the faculty using all the right words, but with empty promises. We as individual parents, teachers, faculty, and board members need to implement procedures and strict guidelines to protect our minority students. Every child should feel safe, heard, and respected equally while receiving an education and attending any and all of the schools. We can and should do better.
Thank you, Ms. Nice.
Hello, my name is Leah Ferris. I went to school at Marina High School. I graduated in 2020, and I ran track. That's how most people from PG High know me. And I remember when we would go to track meets, basketball games, football scrimmages, PG High students would constantly say things to us. That's not the first time I've heard the N-word from one of these students. That's not the first time one of these students has thrown something at me. That's not the first time that one of these students has made a comment about me being Black. It used to happen to me all the time at track meets. I would go to my coach, I would tell him to please say something. He went to the coach, nothing happened. This has happened way too many times. And the thing is, but I know a lot of 16, 15, 13-year-olds who are the same age who are white and never said anything like that. So, you know, when I was a kid, I got kicked out of my house and a teacher from school had to adopt me. And I know how hard it is to go through all these things. And honestly, yeah, maybe some people on the internet took it too far, but what's really disgusting is the language that he used and that Confederate flag, because I don't care what argument you try to say against that is racist, point blank, period. And you think that's not the first time I've heard that word. I've had people at my job spit on me, people grab me from over my register and call me that name several times. I've had people leave messages on my car. I've had people egg my house. And I've even had somebody spray paint the N-word on my house because we are the only Black people in that neighborhood. Well, I'm just going to say this straight up. I accept your apology. And I hope that you learn from this mistake. And I hope you guys teach your students to just really just stop this behavior. This didn't just start with him. This has been going on for years. And every single time I went to a track meet, basketball game, anything, the same thing just kept on happening. And I know that you guys can't say anything about what you did to him. I lived with a teacher. I know how this goes. I want to be a teacher when I grow up. That's what I'm going to school to be. And I'm going to teach my students to be better than that. I'm going to be better than that teacher that didn't say anything and didn't stop you when you said that. I'm going to teach my students about respect. I'm going to teach my students how to handle situations like that, how to defend their peers, how to not record situations like that and be funny. I'm going to be honest. A lot of Black people, they're not angry about the Confederate flag, they're scared. They're not just angry at the KKK, we're scared. That's scary. It really is. I've been followed, I've been attacked, everything in the book. When I was working at the Walmart in Marina, some customer called me a nigger. Straight up called me that 3 times and threatened to beat me up as soon as I got out of work outside. So he was gonna meet me in the parking lot, a grown-ass man, when I was 16. So my husband came and he defended me, and now he's in jail over somebody who called me that word.
Really appreciate this. Really appreciate you telling us your experience.
No problem. I accept your apology.
Speakers on.
I don't expect anyone to believe me, but I live 1 minute from that high school. I walked by that high school a billion times, and I've got the police recruiting people to a hate group. And one of them is right there. And another one followed me here. This president has no care. These guys are the worst people ever. And you're going to keep having problems like this. Until you get rid of the police chief, you're going to keep having these problems. That's it. And the media, useless. That's it.
Thank you so much.
There's people online waiting to say their turn.
We'll go to that.
Superintendent and of course, and board. My name is Playa, and I'm the parent of Pacific Grove High School students. I'm also a lifelong resident of Pacific Grove and a Pacific Grove High School alumni. As a South American immigrant, I too am a minority. I speak tonight in consideration of recent troubling events at Pacific Grove High School. I listened to the board members speak, and several people made a comment about how sickening it was to them to hear what's going on social media and comments that are being made towards Mr. Beyond. I have not read those, but I do not ever condone that type of behavior, those types of comments. And to the family and to anybody that's involved with him emotionally, I do, my heart goes out to you. But more than anything, I am speaking tonight in consideration of the events that happened directly. Anthony did the right thing today by making a public apology and resigning from his position as AFB president. They should be held accountable for a single person. Despite his resignation and despite the disciplinary consequences imposed to Biondi by the Grove High School Principal Garcia, which, by the way, I am not personally worried about the consequences that they impose to him because I understand that he is a minor and that is not my business. However, it cannot be overlooked that the school administration failed to protect students with its decision to allow Biondi to remain as AFB president. He resigned on his own behalf. He did not resign because he was asked to step down. A decision, by the way, that Principal Garcia told me personally was based on an investigation which he conducted on his own, an investigation with an inherent bias. The message heard loud and clear across the campus and across the community was that an AFB officer who displayed open racism, bullying, and hate symbols could, with the support of their principal, hold a position of leadership. How devastating. That message failed our students. So where do we go from here? Our community agrees there's a great need for strengthening and revising policy on equity and inclusion, as well as tightening disciplinary procedures for issues as critical as racism, hate speech, bullying, and supremacy. There is a need and an opportunity for the district to mandate continuing education and training for all staff, including Superintendent Forrest and the board. These should circle around racial justice and empower educators across the board to do their parts in dismantling patterns of racism and injustice in schools. We have the opportunity right now to heal, to create change, and to be better. We have momentum. Let's keep it going.
Thank you very much. We'll go to
Jessica Thompson, looks like she.
Thompson.
Yeah, hi guys. I was just going to say, I think appreciate the chance to hear more about this incident here tonight. And I will echo, I think, what I heard Trustee Swanson say, which I think is really, really important. And I heard Dr. Porras echo that. And then I think what is really stands out here is not about one teenage child, not about just their parents. There's no scapegoating. The big question as a parent and as a community, to me, is when our kids make these poor choices, why is that a thing that so easily comes to the surface for it to manifest as? And that's a symptom of something that is way deeper. And frankly, it does implicate all of us as a community, as a society, as a country. Obviously, we're grappling with a lot and there's no quick fix. So I just want to second the importance of prioritizing broader systemic, just surfacing this stuff, talking about it, being comfortable with it, and making progress in these directions and having these conversations, not being defensive, and also not scapegoating any individual teenager or their parents or a group of friends. It's just not that easy. It's all of us. And the fact that that's in there as the thing that so easily comes out when they want to have a poor choice moment is an indictment of, something that's pretty deep in our community and our society. So that's all I want to say.
Can give us the Monterey County as the second.
Okay. Hi, can you guys hear me?
Sure.
All right, so my name is Fiona. I work with the local Black Lives Matter chapter for the county. And I just want to say the lack of action is very deplorable. And for the lady with the bob haircut, I just want to make a comment about what you said. Not only did you seem like a racist apologist, but what you said shows the anti-Blackness that is prevalent on the board. The fact that he had to apologize after the situation was brought up and he felt comfortable enough to run for a student ASB position, even though the Constitution for PG High says that it's supposed to unify all student organizations under one general contract, provide a democratic forums in which students can address school issues that affect their lives, and then have something like this be so covered up. It's so disgusting as a Black woman and as a Black student. what does this narrative that you guys set today do for Black students in your campus? Not only do you show, does your behavior show that they do not matter to you, but the lack of actions and you guys trying to sweep this under a rug until local grassroots organizations had to pull this out from last year is very disgusting. You guys say that you set policies that are supposed to protect student safety. Where did you guys set a policy that protected Black students from anti-Blackness that runs rampant on your campus? Not only did you guys allow him to be student ASB vice president for so long, and Anthony Biondi, I hear your apology, but however, the harm that you created to Black students is forever, and your actions have lasting impact. Like I said on our Monterey County organization or Instagram, what you guys do and this mentality and what you guys say will translate to the future. Yes, you might apologize now, but what is the real root of the problem? Where did he learn this behavior from? His mother's on the board, but there's a problem in him saying he said this in order to make people like him. Why is this campus climate where he has to use the N-word to make people like him? That means that there is a racist undertone in Pacific Grove High School that needs to be addressed. You guys need to reach out to Black organizations to teach racial equity and the importance of using your mouth to promote love rather than hate. And if you guys continue to act like this is not a big deal and that we have to minimize our anger and our upsetness at this anti-Blackness, then you are contributing to anti-Blackness climate culture at your schools. If you are here in your positions in those seats as board members, you need to think of all the students who are affected by this behavior and all the behavior that is like this that goes unnoticed. We will, as Black students, we will not allow you to act like this is too much or act like we are doing too much with our anger, because we are justifiably angry. Do you know what our ancestors did to remove that attitude towards us? And so to have this repeating cycle of racist, oh, you're inward, inward. No. Confederacy flag is a no. He shouldn't have the opportunity to get to ASB board presidency. And so we need to have a meeting with the community and healing circles. And Anthony Biondi, you need to go to a Black organization and actually learn from your behavior and actually apply yourself to the betterment of the Black community as a redress for your actions, instead of giving us a sorry ass apology that nobody wants to hear. We're tired of the crocodile tears. There needs to be more action. There needs to be accountability, and there needs to be a removal from him from his school football team, his track team, because this behavior needs to stop now. We're in 2021. White supremacy is already running rampant in Pacific Grove with your racist.
At this point, we can't see the lights, and but I do need to cut it 3 minutes for everyone. So thank you. Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate your position. Next.
It is Katanga, and I heard that one of the board members said that there was a lot of bias work done, over the summer, but unfortunately that in display by any of the board members today, especially by the white woman next to the American flag, her saying that, talk about that is not an issue. You are never attacked for being white. You are never hurt for being white, ever. So, and another person was talking about yeah, you did, excuse me one moment. There needs to be more accountability between all of you, as well as the school and administration, because everyone in all the other schools knows how racist PG is. That is not something that is a mystery, something that isn't there, that we all see it. Monterey High kids all know that they are that PG kids are racist. And what's that for? It is all because there is a lack of education in terms of racism. Yes, you did bias work, but where is it? Because I don't see it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your input. Board, at this point, I believe
please.
Sorry, I interpreted silence there. 4 more speakers for it. I think that takes us 12 minutes more. I'd like to cut it with that. That's acceptable to you. Okay. I understand. The 2 here and 2 of them. Thank you very much. Ms. Kim, and then we'll go to Ms. Daniels, and then we'll go to the final 2 over here.
Thank you, Trustee and Chair Path. This is Joan Law, and I really appreciate your being here and talking about this subject. I also want to thank Mr. Principal Leto, the new principal who inherited this problem. I feel like he's been very proactive and really tried hard to listen to the voices here and elsewhere in our community. I would strongly encourage parents to consider an evidence-based program called OASIS. They have 35 years of research originally in Scandinavia, and they have developed this program that's being implemented in Monterey County in numerous schools through Harmony at Home that brings about structural, intentional, and comprehensive evidence-based programming that includes assessment and feedback. So it's a closed loop that is over a period of years and months so that we can affect real change and changing the climate and culture. This is a very profound subject because there is systemic and historic racism, and we live in a privileged community. So I just really thank you for this opportunity and for letting voices be heard.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to point out that had Mr. Biondi been Black, he would have been expelled, arrested in juvenile hall. Had Mr. Biondi been Middle Eastern, he would have been expelled and put on a terrorist watch list. But he's a white child and is rewarded with football privileges and leadership. As far as the student's behavior, as it relates to mass shooters, red flags, to be prepared for a mass shooting is having all the staff informed, including teachers, when suspicious activity arises, which many were not. The photos of a PG high school student holding a Confederate flag and a machine gun should have been enough to warrant district-wide safety protocols to prepare everyone working at the schools. PG High School failed twice handling the situation by rewarding the behavior. I am aware of the confidentiality of the students' action plans, but whatever the plan was, it is clear the consequences were minimal. It's clear because the consequences became rewards. Allowing the student to play on the football team and hold positions of power sends a message that his behavior was not only acceptable, it is encouraged. I would like the school to consider its own involvement with regard to how this was all handled. Our schools need to do better. The community needs to do better. And the student who learned this from somewhere, his parents need to do better. The school needs to improve protocols for mass shooter preparedness, as well as broaden its curriculum to include ethnic studies and awareness. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Daniels. We have 2 more people.
Good evening.
I'll give you,
Alexandra.
When the light turns yellow, it's 30 seconds.
What about me?
When I interrupt, I apologize. I don't like to do that. So, when the light's yellow, you're 30 seconds ready.
Good evening. My name is Alexandra O'Welling, and I'm a junior at Pacific Grove High School. I'm going to start this comment with a short quote from Dr. Angela Davis, a Black revolutionary and abolitionist. In a racist society, it is not enough to be non-racist. We must be anti-racist. And so I add on, neutrality is not anti-racist. Compromise is not anti-racist. Thus, the consequences taken in response to Anthony Biondi's behavior were not anti-racist. Although he resigned, a just district would not attempt to continue Mr. Biondi as ASB president in opposition to the larger community and over 600 petition signatures. Words must result in compatible actions. Mr. Biondi violated Section 18 of the PGUSD behavior guidelines protected under California Education Code 4890. The list of consequences includes suspension, police intervention, and an expulsion recommendation, which in accordance with the PGUSD ASD Constitution and bylaws disqualifies Mr. Biondi from the position. However, Mr. Garcia, Dr. Forrest, and a portion of the main office staff still believe he should serve. Discriminatory behavior at PGHS is not uncommon, but frequently goes unnoticed or brushed off, and the lack of consequence shows. Last week alone, I noticed a racial slur carved into office C-122 and overheard classmates engaging in anti-immigrant. If the school is not abiding by its policies, I am proposing a series of actions to take with the input of the community. Firstly, all staff and elected officials in the district must undergo a basic training consisting of how to act in conflicts fueled by bigotry, prejudice, and microaggressions that seem beyond the privileged perspective. Next, I ask that PGUSD revise its ASB bylaws and school-wide policies in relation to how acts of bigotry are handled among students and staff. Those on or in affiliates with the schools must engage in works containing anti-racist and non-discriminatory themes, initiating the unlearning of oppressive ideologies. Lastly, I request that the school, particularly the leadership department, make an effort to turn the campus into a more inclusive place by organizing events and assemblies to celebrate culture and diversity and commemorate monumental minority-powered moments throughout history. I trust that as long as the district advocates for an equitable environment, it will not doubt that change is essential to ensure the safety of marginalized groups on and outside of the campus. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mary Vaughn, and I'm not going to tell you guys what you've already heard. It did rattle my cage when I saw the Confederate flag. I told you all that. It's matter of fact, I'm a mom of 3 boys. They're all mixed race, Black and Portuguese. My youngest goes to Pacific Grove High School. So yes, it rattled my cage for safety reasons. My sons have thicker skin. They can handle names and words, even though it's not right. And when it comes to safety, that's an issue. So I reached out to my friends at the Monmouth School District. I wanted to know what their actions were when they encountered things like this. And a former principal, I don't want to mention her name, because I don't know if she'll let me, but she recommended a program for not just parents, students, but for the whole faculty. It's called NCBI. It's run by, or the chapter person to contact would be Sue Paris, and she's willing. I already spoke with her. She's willing to come out and talk with everybody at Pacific Grove High School, including the faculty, because that's what Seaside High did back in the day, to educate people about how bad that is. And I'd be willing and happy to give that to you. I'm also a first generation. My dad came over from the Azores. I'm a first generation Portuguese person, so I get all that. My great-grandmother worked in the cannery, so I'm definitely a local. So I see these things, but I also know that, like I said, I raised 3 boys. I know boys do stupid things. And I hate to see this young boy's future be ruined for such a stupid thing. And I think this is a moment, like the other person said, I think you said it, to not lose the momentum. Let's keep this going and teach everybody how to handle these things. And yes, the bylaw should be rewritten. That's all.
Thank you very much. Mr. Hank.
Thank you to the board members and everyone in attendance for allowing me the time to speak. I would like to provide a quick update on Operation Safe Start. That has been the first couple weeks of school. Operation Safe Start was built around the 3 E's of traffic enforcement, being engineering, education, and finally enforcement. During the start of the school year, as students fill our campus sites, the Pacific Grove Police Department worked proactively to conduct high visibility traffic enforcement programs. This one was called Operation Safe Start because it was a traffic enforcement, as the name. And that's what makes it cool. This event requires the involvement of all day shift personnel to include our leadership, the chief, the commander, patrol sergeants, patrol officers, our community service officers, even all the way down to parking enforcement. We're all on the lookout for violations during the morning and afternoon peak hours for school site traffic violations. This was obviously made a lot more challenging with Harley. That brought a lot of traffic, a lot of crying cars, a lot of people driving erratically. I'm very proud to and pleased to report that the operation was a great success. We're able to slow down traffic, increase awareness through high visibility traffic stops, and the use of our mobile radar unit, which is right now going to drop it down. It basically is something that flashes the speed when you drive by, and a lot of our streets are wide open right at the engineering. Right, they changed on Pine, for example, to 4-lane track road that kind of near the freeway. If you look at it, it's got two distinctive lanes of travel, and they engineered some new paint, and it is obviously doing a little bit better. We can always make improvements. For this opportunity, we were able to educate all the stakeholders on the importance of traffic safety in school zones, not only through traffic stops, but stopping and popping. It was, I was out in front of the school with the radar gun, and it's sometimes being visible is almost a better deterrent than actually getting pulled over and getting ticked. This is going to be an ongoing. Representative for the state department who really showed a great partnership with us, and also we're working with the volunteers. In crossing guards and the major intersections that we have, the major problems that are facing, and I appreciate it very, very much. Thank you for the time.
Timing, Jeff. Okay, that is where we said we were going to end. That was a complete scene. So everybody who spoke on social justice matter. I appreciate the comments. I appreciate the input, notes taken, and I would say that I've been here 7.5 years. More than 8 years. In that time frame, we've expelled 5 children. I don't want to minority comments like that. So move forward. We are now on to consent agenda. Items listed on consent are considered routine. May have been found or discussed in previous board meetings. There's no discussion item prior to the board vote. Unless a member of the board requests items discussed or removed. We have a changed consent agenda. Item N is pulled and will be the very first action following. Again, thank you all very much. I will give a moment to clear the room.
Yes.
Okay, so, board, anybody, starting with, let's see, was there anything to fire up the consent? Yes, just a reminder that, bring it back. I'm muffled, yes, I understand. I'm muffled and Andy's always telling me to speak up anyway. Okay, thank you. So, Carolyn Swanson.
Can you repeat what is on the table?
We're going into consent to full item N.
Okay.
Consent, you're good, okay.
I don't want to pull it tonight, but I think over time I'd like to look at grades and graduation requirements at a different time and a little more depth. I'd like to know if their class, if math deserves another year. It's something I know Algebra 2 is the gateway math, and if you don't get exposure to that, it's going to be pretty tough in college. So not at this time, but maybe it's something to look at. Other than that, thank you.
I have no, nothing else to pull, so do I have a motion to? Public comment?
If we accept tonight's consent agenda.
Okay, motion made. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Wants to know?
Yeah, I can see her. I don't.
You can see her?
Yeah.
Okay, thumbs up. If Mandy says you have a thumbs up, we'll take a thumbs up.
She's not doing anything.
Hi.
All right, passes 4-0. Thank you all very much. We're going to go to item N. Item N was pulled. It is contracted services with Pacific West Purification. And while I suspect it's, won't go into it, do you guys have any comments on this? Comments? Any public comments, concerns on this? Seeing none. Contract services for Pacific West Purification at Boyceville Elementary. Motion made by John Papp, seconded by Trustee Dawson. Vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Ms. Swanson.
I'll recuse myself.
Thank you. Okay, passes 3-0 with one recusal. Thank you, Ms. Swanson. We are now on to a public hearing regarding potential composition of trustee areas prior to drawing of maps. And with that, Mr. Superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think we have a presentation coming now for the board. Again, this public hearing is part of a larger track that the board has taken in regards to looking and responding to the California Voting Rights Act. And we've had previous discussions, and the public hearing is part of that discussion in regards to looking at what the design of maps read like and outlining trustee areas for board election. So I'm going to go ahead at this time and hand it on over and let our presenter speak.
Good evening, board president, members of the board, members of the community board here. My name is Dr. Justin Levitt. I'm with National Demographics, and we're here to talk a little bit about the California Voting Rights Act and the process of looking at district elections or trustee area elections. So what I should start with is kind of laying out what we're doing here tonight is that Pacific Grove, like most school districts historically throughout the state of California, use the system of elections that we call at large. That means that all residents throughout the district voted for all 5 members of the council, and members of the council could live anywhere. So what we're looking at doing here tonight is moving well, the third option, by district or by trustee area system. In this scenario, what we will have is 5 areas. The district will be divided into 5 areas, equal population. We'll talk about that in a minute. And each of these areas will have one trustee who resides in the area that's elected by the members of the public community who live within that area. This is really coming about because of the California Voting Rights Act. The California Voting Rights Act is a 2001 law that basically made it a little bit easier for plaintiffs to force jurisdictions like cities and school districts into this bi-district election system. It took the Federal Voting Rights Act and basically simplified it to a very simple mathematical formula. Are there sufficient numbers of protected classes that historically face discrimination? And do they vote as a block? And liability is only determined by a simple mathematical equation. In the federal court, you have to show that the protected class makes up the majority of the seat. In federal court, you have to look at the history and the totality of the circumstances to show that race or ethnicity matters in elections. The California Voting Rights Act simplifies that considerably. And what that has meant for the state is that across the state, we've seen quite a number of districts, school districts, cities, special districts, and other districts transition from at-large to district or trustee area elections. At our last count, over 240 school districts, over 150 cities, over 30 community college districts, and 35 special districts have switched from at-large to by district or by trustee area elections. And the litigation on this question has pretty much, up to this point, has resulted in mostly wins on the plaintiffs. So Palmdale, Santa Clara both went to court and lost on this issue. Other cities like Modesto and Palmdale have also settled after spending millions on their own defense. And the settlements in some of these cases, for example, Palmdale, 4.7 million, City of Modesto, 3 million. And it's not coincidence that most of these top dollars are coming from cities, because cities don't have kids to get into, they don't have other expenses going on. It's not a coincidence that most of these are bigger places or cities with resources, because of course you need money to fight it. And unlike most litigation, costs are going to that trial. There's no provision in the California, in fact, there's explicit prohibition for defendants that are successful to recoup any of their costs from the plaintiff in the CVRA. And so essentially the state has been encouraging districts and school district cities, counties to make this transition. And they've laid out a very specific process to do so. There's an entire section of the Elections Code devoted to the California Voting Rights Act, how it should be implemented. And the process we're looking at here starts tonight. We start with 2 hearings to begin to look at the criteria, begin to think about the neighborhoods and communities of interest within the community, and to solicit input on how the trustee areas should be drawn. We're doing this tonight. We're also going to have a second one of these hearings on September 16th. One of the reasons we're doing this now is that we do have some preliminary data from the census. We don't have the final data yet. We're waiting for that. But we really want to hear that testimony or that input on communities of interest even before we know the populations. Because the populations don't matter as much as where those neighborhoods are. What areas need to be kept together, what areas need to be divided for the purposes of good representation. We should get final data from the state of California in early October. And following that data release, we will have an additional 2 public hearings, January 20th and February 3rd, where we will look at maps. And hopefully we will start the process in January of narrowing it down from 3 or 4 maps down to 1 or 2, with that final selection and maybe any revisions, of course, with the revisions on February 3rd, but that final selection on February 3rd. This is in advance of the March 1st deadline that the state has put into place for school districts to adopt, especially because through this process, the district will have to go to the County Committee on School District Organization for their stamp of approval on whatever map the district selects. Now, looking at the requirements under the California Voting Rights Act, we actually are looking at sort of the broad criteria that are required for any jurisdiction that the courts have recognized and laid out over the years. And we really start with the federal laws over in that left-hand column. Equal population is the 1 person, 1 vote standard from the Baker v. Hart. The districts have to have more or less the same number of people. So trustee areas have to have the same number of people. This includes everyone, so it does include children. It's not just voters. That's from that 2020 census count. In addition, we have to look at the Federal Voting Rights Act, where we see protected class communities within the district. Race cannot be the only factor. It can't be the predominant factor. in the creation of the trustee area. But it's one of many things that we consider taken together with those factors that are listed in that second column. So that second column in yellow really gets at those criteria that are balanced with each other for school districts. So contiguity is the idea that districts need to be one piece or one entire whole. You have to be able to get from one part of the district to every other part of that same trustee area. Of course, communities of interest is what we're going to talk about here in a second in more detail, but we can think of it broadly as areas that have a shared identity, areas that have a shared interest in something, and I'll say relevant to the school district. There are plenty of communities of interest that might be relevant for a county or state redistricting that may be vice versa, or for school district, vice versa. Also, easily identifiable boundaries. It's the idea that voters should have an easy time understanding which trustee area they live in. It's much easier, for example, to say this side of the freeway or that side of the freeway than it is to say, well, if you live in the even number cul-de-sac versus the odd number houses on that cul-de-sac. And finally, compactness, which is about the shape of the district, that it should make sense to people who are looking at the map why that might was the way it is. In addition, the courts have also recognized other traditional districting principles, like the fact that the voters of the district have elected a board, and that the trustee area of the districting process shouldn't be a way of particularly targeting a member or particularly, going after a particular board member. And also future population growth. This is a smaller district. I think we counted about 17,400 people according to the preliminary 2020 census report. So we know that there are new communities, new developments going in. We can take that into account by underpopulating areas where we know development is happening and overpopulating other areas, although we still have to achieve that basic one person, one vote standard, so about equal population. Say the maximum difference between the largest and smallest needs to be, in this case, about 1,700 people. That's about 10% of the total population of the district. Now, looking at how we define communities of interest, because this is really what we are about. I think still the best way I've ever heard it described are areas with shared problems. So what does that mean? Well, when we think of problems, we think of things that people come to the board to discuss, things that people come to particular involvement. For school districts, we often think of attendance areas, we often think of, of how elementary schools might feed into middle schools or high schools. However, we also might want to think about those other impacts, like different, different communities service zones and how they provide different services with respect to the roads that kids have to walk down or take the bus down to get to school. We also think about areas like shared geography, shared history, shared community, that plan developments might have that similar identity. And we can also look at the demographics. That's part of what you hire a demographer to do. We'll give you some information about the social and economic characteristics of the community, but that doesn't really substitute for hearing what the communities are on the ground. And I'll just mention that California law really has taken this turn, which is kind of implicit already, but it's been made very explicit that we're not considering partisanship as part of the process. The board, like all local governments in California, is not partisan, and so political affiliation doesn't play that kind of role in the process. So just to give you some senses of ideas, we want to really look at your attendance areas, main sort of historic ties and communities, especially as it relates to schools that bring people together. Now, I know we're thinking, it's a small district, about 3,500 people in each of the 5 trustee areas. That's much smaller than my community. And so we might think about, like, okay, well, if this community is 1,000 people, that's 2 trustee areas. So maybe there's a way of thinking about, okay, we don't have just one area there, but we have a community that serves that needs to be served by 2 trustees. And particularly with attendance areas, this is something that we often frequently come up. Parents often appreciate having more than one board member responsible directly to the voters of a particular school in order to get concerns addressed. And so that should be one consideration that we take into account as we go through. Now, as we go through the process, we're going to be looking at also developing some web tools to help you understand this better and play around with it yourself. One of the new tools that we have this year actually is Disregard. This is a community drawing tool. So it really doesn't draw districts very well, but it allows you to paint where your neighborhoods or communities are. And you can draw overlapping neighborhoods and communities on the tool. So you're not limited to just putting this into community A or community B. If this, if it's the corner of Walnut and, Maple is really in 2 different neighborhoods, you can have it in a smaller community and the bigger community. Really what our communities, or which is really what our discussion is going to start today and really continue on. This is the opening discussion, but I don't think it's the final discussion. As we continue to work through the process in September and into the new year, we hope to give you more information. Hopefully we'll have all the demographic data in the presentation. But we're hoping to begin to discuss tonight what the communities of interest are in the community. And really in particular, like attendance areas, should we aim to divide them between trustees, or do we want to keep them whole? This is something we often hear a lot of debate at the school districts, so we raised that specifically tonight. If, in addition to our presentation here tonight, you can always reach out to us via the school district's website, phone number, and email are here. And for those of you who check the, find the board's agenda page, this presentation, including that phone number and email, are posted for you to download and view. And we really look forward to hearing your comments tonight and throughout the process. So with that, thank you very much. I'm happy to answer any questions and look forward to our discussion.
Dr. Forrest, I recollect that when we first talked about this, that existing trustees are not at risk even if they live next door until the election time. Is that correct?
There's an election cycle. The current election cycle completes. Their current election cycle completes in their data.
And then, right. So Christy and I are neighbors. She's up in 2022 and I'm up in 2024. Only one of us could be elected. Basically, the second guy out is probably out of luck. Has to run against her.
Yeah, that's the question I wanted to make sure you asked. Our legal counsel involved or on the person? That's I don't want to misspeak.
We will raise that with legal counsel and actually we have to talk to the county committee and school district organization about that because different counties have different interpretations of that exact situation. And I can tell you that Orange County and San Diego County came to opposite conclusions about which district the trustee is up first.
Okay.
So we'll talk with Monterey and legal counsel, Monterey County.
Thank you. That's the only question I have. Carolyn Swanson, no question?
Thanks, John. I'm having kind of a hard time hearing exactly what's going on, but I do know that this public hearing is part of this process. And I would just say that when I believe that there's more than one public hearing as part of the process. And so I would just like to request that when we do have public hearings of any shape or topic, that we consider as a district sending out an email to our families regarding this topic and really try to solicit feedback. I'm trying to avoid that scenario where we have a public hearing and we just say, oh, we didn't get any public comment. I really want us to kind of amplify our efforts for that. That's my comment.
Thank you, Ms. Swanson. Ms. Dawson.
Yeah, I appreciate you clarifying this further for us, because we heard about this initially, and my initial reaction was, what are people telling us what to do? But I think the numbers are quite, discouraging. I mean, it just doesn't pay to fight is what it sure looks like. And you don't want to waste valuable resources to no avail that could hire another teacher or support new books or whatever. I did think it's interesting tonight, you commenting that 2 people could be from within the same district. So there are some different ways to look at it. Is that what I gathered correctly?
Yeah, we can certainly look into those kinds of issues. I know, it's not uncommon, especially in smaller school districts, for multiple trustees to come from the same area.
I think, yeah,
So-
especially so small.
Yes.
I mean, obviously, you're talking about San Diego or, Orange County, massive districts. You have I used to work in Los Angeles, and gosh, you drive 1 hour, one hour the other, and you're still in LA Unified. So that's so different, but as small as this is.
Certainly avoid cutting blocks, including sense of geography.
Right.
But, we could definitely, part of this process is taking a look into that and seeing what the possibilities are and presenting them.
Thank you.
I want to clarify here. What you said, what I heard, is not, I think, what she asked. And perhaps it is, but it's still in place.
I thought it was. So
What
let's
you
find
said
out.
is that at Robert Down, there could potentially be 2 people who have within the range of that school population. Trustee.
Oh, certainly certain areas are often
But in
divided.
fact, it is unlikely, as we live across the street, that 2 people districts would be side by side. So it would be a much-
Yeah, we've had trustees who actually share a house before.
Wow.
It's possible for 2 trustees to share a house. But, sometimes, you think 2 people are close to each other, and there's a major road that separates them, or there's a community division that separates them, or something else that's actually not just on the same street, but actually on 2 very different neighborhoods. And we look at that. And so, in the future, we'll provide you with that analysis, especially when we look at the maps.
Thank you. You did answer that.
Yes, you did. You were dead on. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I'm really interested to see how these maps start to develop in such a small community. And we're much more diverse than when I was much younger. We're getting better, but we still need to work towards increasing our diversity in our wonderful town. So I'm interested to see that. My concern is these seats up here haven't really had like heated campaign contests. And worst case scenario, I'm thinking of an area that has no one that's interested in putting in the time and finds out that there's no one interested. So someone throws in the hat, and then we have a seat with a trustee that's not really here. So that just renders the board a little bit more ineffective, if you know what I'm getting at. Just because the seat was available, so they ran without contest just to get up here, and then they're not doing their job. So I'm just throwing some concerns I have, but obviously a huge concern is the money. I don't want to, we can't lose that money. I mean, this seems like the only choice. So that's all comments. I'm sorry. The question I do have though is we've been talking about geographic areas and trustee by area implies, the compact geographic area. Would trustee by school be considered a trustee by area?
So anytime you're looking at that equal population requirement is first and foremost. So if, and I mean, you can't say that because we haven't gotten the final census data yet, so we can't look at this yet. It's unlikely that every school, however, has the same total population, because that includes not just the students, but the adults. So even if the schools are the same size, maybe one school with 200 students serve a community of 1,000. Another school serves a community of 2,000. So that's often what we see in different elementary or even middle school, high school attendance areas, widely different numbers of total residents.
Okay, that was half of the presentation. I suspect most of the other half of that presentation has been covered. However, our representative Lozano is still here. Yes.
Yes, right here.
Online. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. That was helpful.
We need you to stick around in case there's public comment after the second half of this as well. So.
I'm saying around.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah. So will I be able to share my screen?
Yes. Yes, you will.
Okay.
Like share screen right here.
Can everyone see my screen at the moment?
No.
No. Okay. Let me, is this better?
No.
What, I believe I would need access to share screen.
He's got the access.
Yeah, you have access to do that.
I see it now. Sorry about that. So
There you go.
Yep.
There.
All right. Great. Thank you for your patience. So I recognize that Justin already spoke on some of this, so I'll just go through anything that he may have missed, or maybe I'll just go through what hasn't been covered. So thanks again, Superintendent and Board. I wanted to just quickly present on the process for the transition to trustee area elections. So an overview of the CVRA, this is something that Justin already went over. The CVRA prohibits the use of at-large elections that impair the ability of a protected class to elect candidates of their choice or influence the outcome of an election, which is known as racially polarized voting. There's a difference between this, the CVRA, and the Federal Voting Rights Act, in that proof of intent to discriminate is not required. So at-large elections, this is the election method that Pacific Grove currently has, where board members can live wherever they want, and the registered voters, all of them elect all of the trustees. This graphic right here is a representation of by trustee area elections. You see how each trustee lives in a specific area and it's only voted by the voters who live in that area. Public agencies have yet to successfully defend a CVRA challenge, with the exception of one case, the Santa Monica case, but I believe Justin sort of went over this, went over some of the costs, so I won't belabor some of the highest fees paid out to plaintiffs' counsel. What I would like to spend most of my time, which isn't much, is just going over the process to establish by trustee area elections. And I believe a trustee mentioned this is something that we should make sure members of the community are aware of. So the board has already adopted an intent resolution, which is step one. This happened back in April, on April 22nd. This is just letting everyone know, the community know, that the board is initiating its transition from at-large to by trustee area elections. We are currently tonight at the first pre-map hearing. There are going to be 2 of these. The next one is on September 16th. And so if we're looking at the board is interested in having more members of the community present for public comment, then there are definitely ways to outreach. The California Voting Rights Act does not have a specific mandate for how these public hearings need to be published or presented to the community. So the board can really choose any method that it wants. whether it's newspapers, social media campaigns. There are definitely ways to make sure that the community is aware of these public hearings. This second step, it's not required, but at the second pre-map hearing, the board can adopt a resolution that lists out the criteria that it wants the demographer to consider when establishing these trustee areas. So as the demographer mentioned, equal populations is key, but some other optional criteria the board can discuss and might even wish to discuss, trying to make sure that trustees aren't battling each other when these maps are drawn. But that would just be an optional consideration, the main one being equal population amongst the trustee areas. So now later on, I'm kind of fast forwarding a bit, after the 2 pre-map hearings, there will be 2 map consideration hearings. The first scheduled for January 20th, the second for February 3rd. This is after the census data, the 2020 census data will have been released, and allows the demographer to present multiple map options for the board's consumption and the community's consumption. And so these are other instances where members of the community can come and voice their concerns, questions, preferences for the maps that are drawn. And then I would say the penultimate step is this map adoption hearing, which is where the board chooses the final trustee area map, they approve one, and this map will go to this final step that I'm about to show. It'll go to the County Committee on School District Organization, which has the authority to change the method of elections for a school district. The county committee will basically hold at least one hearing in the district to consider the map that the district board chose. And then the county committee will vote to either approve or deny that map. This will happen or should happen sometime around February or March, but there might need to be some communication with the county committee to try to get that on their schedule. And then just really briefly, there's an update, a new law, Senate Bill 442 recently passed, and basically in effect, previously when the county committee approved a school district's proposal, it would constitute an election to allow the voters of the jurisdiction to either approve or vote yes or no to this map. However, with Senate Bill 442 being in effect starting January 1, as you saw on my previous slide, the county committee approval wouldn't occur until after that date. The county committee has a choice to, by resolution, decide to forego that election requirement and have their approval be the final say. And I apologize if that was too quickly, but I recognize that you all have heard this before, and with Justin presenting beforehand, I just wanted to make sure to quickly touch upon some of the main points. So at this point, does anyone, I'm available to field any questions that weren't answered previously.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Barry Smith. I started with Carolyn before, so let's start with Dr. Rivera. Questions?
No questions. Thank you for the presentation.
Yep, no problem at all. So let me stop sharing this screen. Or
where you at?
Yeah, I just want to check with you on the waiver so I could understand it. So the map we agree on as we move forward over these several meetings and up through January, we can waive their approval of it if it's done by January. Is that what that stated?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'll go back and rephrase. So what Senate Bill, what that Senate Bill did, it allowed the county committee. So the county committee in the past, when they approved the district's map, it would constitute an order of election. What most jurisdictions, most school districts did in advance of that was seek a waiver from the State Board of Education to eliminate that election requirement. What Senate Bill 442 does now is instead of school districts seeking this State Board of Education waiver, they can discuss with the county committee, and if the county committee is on the same page and decides that the school district's map is something that they want to approve, and they would rather it not go to the electorate for approval, for, I guess the final approval, it allows the county committee to pass a resolution. And then once the county committee approves the map, then that finalizes a process. That's a map that's chosen. The electorate wouldn't have a chance to vote on that. So it was almost as if the legislature recognized that most school districts went through this State Board of Education waiver hearing. And so they're basically allowing the county committee to make the option if they want to be the final say on that map.
And that county, I'm sorry, that county committee is existing at this time. Currently it's there and we just are gonna go. Okay. All right, thank you for helping clarify that. It went a little too quick for me and I didn't quite understand.
Yes.
So thank you so much.
So yeah, so sorry, I'll make sure to slow down next time. But yes, it would be the current county committee on school district organization would have the option on that final county committee hearing to just finalize that map, say that it's done, this is the one we want to use if they approve it. So
And our current schedule would be, this would be done by the spring, including the various meetings and then the map drawing. And then our end goal would be in the spring, these districts would be thought out and decided.
yes, all of the statutorily required hearings should be finalized by February. And then if the county committee approves, that will give the registrar of voters enough time to implement the trustee areas in time for the 2022 November elections.
Thank you.
You're welcome, of course.
Ms. Swanson.
Thank you. I think Mr. Barry Smith did an excellent presentation, and I do not have any further questions.
Thank you, Ms. Swanson. I have no questions. So we'll open to public comment. Any public comment? Board comment. No public standing here. I see no hands raised in chat. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, with that, we will close the public hearing at this point on this matter. Appreciate your both of you coming in and working with us on this. It'll be an interesting few months as we go through this with a few more meetings. So, thank you. Thank you all very much. Okay, that brings us to discussion A. Discussion A is Mr. Kelly. Mr. Kelly, I think this is very straightforward and please come up with questions. The fact of the matter is we are looking to eliminate seatbelt resting at the high school and middle school. And it's hopefully the easiest thing that we have tonight. It is straightforward as written. The contract is $7,000 and it's within the budget as it stands. Board, starting with Ms. Dawson, do you have any questions?
Not at this time.
No, I should go to Ms. Swanson. Frank, Frank, any questions? No questions. Ms. Swanson, any questions?
Let me just check here. No, I do not have any questions on this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I have no questions. Opening the public comment. Seeing none here. Anybody else staying? Okay, do I have a motion to accept the contract of services with advanced IPM for test management at PGHS and PGMS? Motion to accept.
Seconded.
Okay, motion made by Dr. Frank Rivera and Mr. Dawson. All in favor? Aye.
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 Aye. Passes 4-0. Thank you all very much. Mr. Kelly, thank you for the presentation.
Seriously.
New maintenance vehicles. Now here, I think that it is also straightforward, except I think there's a question. So what's been presented is that we need to purchase and we have measured funds allocated for replacement of trucks. And we are thinking about replacing a Dodge van with 84,000 miles and more Dodge vans with Chevy S10. Do we resell them?
We can either resell them. That's the plan right now, but it is about 4 or 5 months away because we won't get the vehicles because of that chip problem. So at that point, we'll have to surplus it and then we'll put the board notes after this.
So I guess I would ask one more question, which is how was the choice of being made?
We went through mostly a bid and with Chevy and Ford, and we even looked at Toyota to see what they could basically what kind of utility beds they could give us, and we bid locally, and then we ended up using the Ford in Sacramento because they had state pricing and it was the cheapest pricing that the local dealers couldn't offer us. So we looked at the size of the engine with F-250s and we got the Chevy 2500s, so we could hold some of the new trailers that we're getting. I think we ran into the issue of graduation. Our last year for COVID, we had borrowed Carmels because our vans couldn't make it up the hill. So we got big enough engines. I looked at alternative fuel and kind of went away from that because in an emergency, we lose that fuel, then our fleet would be down. So we could always, gas is probably some of the most efficient. So we refill up and have 5 or 6 days of fuel with gas. So we stuck with that this time. Maybe later on, in another 20 years, we can look at alternative fuel again. So the biggest issue, the biggest thing we really looked at was the utility bed and what that would give us for decided, along with the maintenance guys that gave us the greatest flexibility.
That was another, you've already answered the question. Are we looking at electric vehicles or other alternatives? At this moment in time, we believe when we translate this is that it's not going to be effective for us.
Not going to be effective for us, just mainly in emergency situations. We need to have those fuel so we can attend to, like, if the power goes down, we want to be able to charge the batteries at night and we need that after a day instead of gas. We'd have it for 4 or 5 days.
We were to push off purchase of 2 of these until the F2 truck or Ford truck comes out. These are already well cost.
Yes. Yeah, we have 20+-year-old vehicles that that transmission's replaced, motors replaced, rusting. They're pretty bad shape.
Nothing for the quick time, I was sympathy because we're talking about that. Okay, so let's start with Frankie. If you're there.
Yeah, thank you. Looks good. The only thing is, as you can see, I need a new key. And I'm kind of freaking out here because it says the key is $300.
Yes,
Yeah.
or an extra key.
Yeah, you really brought it home.
Yeah.
It's a really nice key.
Yeah.
Okay, Ms. Swanson.
Yeah, thanks, John. Hi, Director Kelly from a distance. I have a question about, this is going to sound silly, but I'm familiar with these vehicles. We use them for my business, and I noticed that in the quote, it mentions it's a new Ford Transit Connect, which in my experience is like the smaller version, but then I see in the photo in the packet, you actually have a photo of the full-size cargo van. So I would kick myself later if I didn't bring it up and somehow we thought we were getting one and not the other. So is that, can you expand on that?
Yeah, in fact, I looked at the same thing because when the quote came in and it was titled that way, I thought the same exact thing. So I went back to the dealer and verified with him, it is the bigger vehicle. It's not the small Transit. The title, they are the same, but they're the same, I think, on the website as well. So it is the bigger one, the bigger payload and everything else. So
Okay, it is the bigger one, even though they're calling it the Connect.
I don't know. I didn't know either, and but I did verify with the dealer that it is the bigger model that we're looking at, and not the smaller, the little small Transit that they have too as well. And the price reflects that well as well. The smaller one is about $23,000. I believe this one's around upwards of 28,000.
This one is 23 on the quote. So maybe if you don't mind, just double checking. It sounds like you already have, but that was my comments on this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Swanson.
No questions at this time. Thank you.
Okay, any public comment? Anything on the line? Being done. Motion to accept. Motion to accept.
Seconded.
Motion made by Dr. Rivera, seconded by Christy Dawson. All in favor? Aye.
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 Hi.
That passes 4-0. Thank you all very much. Mr. Kelly, thank you. And that's the penalty for the first step. Okay, we go into our last discussion here, which is board calendar, future meetings. We are looking at a couple items on here. We have tonight's meeting. We have September 2nd, September 16th with a special board meeting on foreign language. Dr. Corus, is that date still look reasonable to you? So, okay, is that something that can be done? Right, is that expected to be about 2 hours on Saturday, or is that?
You know, honestly, we could incorporate it into a regular meeting. I don't imagine it's gonna take much longer than an hour. The group has done a really hard look at this, and I know that the Silva will be, I'm trying to get an update together after this next meeting. So honestly, I think we could probably incorporate the meeting people in an hour easily.
Okay, let's plan on that, and board, we have a meeting before that, and if when we ask this question again, it says, well, I probably need another half hour, maybe we can extend it to September 16th. Okay, so let's bring that to September 16th, please. That leaves us with a board goals meeting on September 25th. Board, does that still work? We'll talk through our bylaws a little bit. I think our strategic plan actually might have been set for this year. Right there, Christine.
Well, I appreciate going from 2 Saturdays to 1, definitely. And that can be done. And I'd like to hear more specifics. I know we've done this now. This will be the 3rd year that we get together, and I really like that. I just want to make sure that we have specific goals that we're looking for, or items within. There are things that come up that we talk, we wish we had more time to go into more depth. So I'd like to be very conscientious about choosing what it is that we give our time to. And if this only means partial time because strategic plan is already established, then let's look how to best use our time, and especially after asking others to join us and be here.
Ms. Dawson, or Ms. Swanson.
Can you repeat what you're proposing?
Well, we're just making sure that the 25th still looks like a date that's reasonable to look at goals and make sure the plan is consistent. And in that goals, we can add, it's a goals meeting, so revise as necessary, including some of the discussions from earlier.
Okay, so you're saying that we'll keep the Saturday, September 25th meeting and keep the September 18th meeting?
No, we're gonna move the September 18th. I'm sorry, I apologize. I didn't ask you. The plan is move the foreign language into the September 16th meeting based on the expected time necessary for it right now.
Okay.
On Saturday now, on the 25th.
I don't mind coming in on Saturdays to do this important work, but okay, so you're wanting to move the foreign language program item onto September 16th regular meeting, correct?
Yes. And then we'll firm up the 25th and we all agree to that. That won't be a TBD.
Okay, thank you.
Ralph reminds me I'm not speaking into the mic, so it's my error, my fault. Okay, with that, are there any other changes past that, Dr. Forrest?
Thank you, Mr. President. I do have one question for you. Obviously, we're not planning for site visits right now based on COVID and all of what we're having. But I do want to know if there's an expectation from the board or a desire from the board to have the school sites at least come and do a brief presentation here at the board office. We used to do that years ago, 10, 15 minutes or so. But it's not listed because we're not doing site visits. I'd like to know what your expectation is so I can talk to the administration.
Absolutely. I would want to hear from the site specifically. I think it's a wonderful time for us, all the sites, to really kind of delve in, and they get to show up some of the things they're working on. And it's so much more, I don't know, it feels more relevant in so many ways because it's not about numbers, it's about what we're really doing, which is educating people, especially little people too. Now, will we have more likelihood in the spring of being able to go to sites? I mean, if there are vaccinations approved in the next month or two, I mean, does it pay? It's always been early in the year. I'm just wondering if it would behoove us to wait a little bit.
Certainly,
Spring.
I think we could certainly look into that. I'd just like to give the sites sort of a little bit of briefing so that time to prepare. Okay, so I think if the board would like to give it some time and wait till the spring, then the sites know that and we can pull back a little bit and plan that. Just giving a heads up.
Yeah, I think that would be nice. The sites are going through a lot right now with COVID and everything. So we give them till the spring.
I will throw this out over just because memory. The spring is pretty fast. So there's a lot, but again, we'll work with what you need us to.
Carolyn, I can't speak for you. I would say I think that you probably do want sites to present, but go ahead. What's your thought?
I'm sorry, but I'm gonna have to ask you to repeat what the topic is.
Well, Dr. Porras asked, do we want to, even though we cannot physically go to sites, or we would not probably in the fall, do we wish to have site presentations during regular meetings? And the consensus among the three members here is yes, but also if things change sufficiently, we may ask to go to sites in the spring. So I think our answer right now is we would like sites to present. If it changes, we will give you plenty of notice to do that.
Oh, I see. Okay. I guess I feel differently. I feel like the sites could use a break from these presentations this entire year. I really want them to be able to focus on student safety and academic achievement. And I love their presentations. I've attended them many, many times as a member of the public, and I have loved them, and they're wonderful. But I just try to put myself in their shoes, and I feel like it's like one less kind of major thing that might drain their energy. So that's how I feel about it.
Well, we didn't get to see them. I mean, last year was COVID and things. I just feel very removed. I feel strongly it shouldn't be, hopefully, a major thing. It should be just a representation of what you guys are already doing. And hopefully that isn't too much. What I worry about coming here is that a hardship for families to come here versus just going to the school where kids are comfortable and it's a little easier on them. So I'd love to hear from you about what you think about that with the smaller kids. Would it be easier to do it here or there? What are your thoughts? And would it be easier? You used to love to go first, so it'd be over with. So it's the spring, like, oh, here we go.
So that's one of the reasons why we had asked, just so we would know if we need to get something ready in the next couple of weeks. I think that what we could have ready at the board meeting is a presentation of what we're doing at the school. It would be a much smaller student participation. That would just have to be a necessity. We would want to pack everybody into this room, but we could have a representative or two kind of come and talk about the things that we have going on over at Forest Grove. I think there is some flexibility for us on, as far as the timing goes. There are certain weeks that we would want to avoid, the board meetings that are right around the parent conference time. That's a challenge for us because our teachers put in a ton of work to get ready for those fall conferences. I think that if we went ahead with kind of our normal schedule, maybe bumped back about a week, so that I think that we normally would have come up on September 16th. If maybe they start, we could be ready by then. I know the board meetings in the spring, there's so much that's going on. I don't know that the spring is a good time for us to try to do that. Plus the start of the year, we've got things rolling and we could have something ready.
One recommendation may very well be to ask, I don't know, we'll ask the principal and how he feels like something throws out there, but we could have the staff doing just a brief video presentation that we can just watch. Not live, but that's a possibility.
Kind of like the idea of live a little bit better than the video because there's a production aspect to that. I'm not sure I can pull off. So.
Okay, so at this, I'd like to, I think we are asking you to do it, keep it short. And let's start on the 7th, okay?
7th of October.
Yeah, that pushes back.
I've never seen this. I would love to see this, but the reason why I suggested the spring was because of everything that's going on right now. And I didn't know that spring was as hectic as it is. Again, being a newer member, is it possible to make it optional? I really don't want to put any more work on the site as much as I want to see it.
Either yes or no.
Can we ask them?
The administration, if you want, we can put this off to the next meeting, and I can ask that what their preferences are, what the possibilities are. We can give you that.
Okay, perfect. Let's do that.
And in the meantime, President Taft, may I invite every school board member that if you want to come and just spend a day on campus or spend an hour just to get a feel for what we're doing, that's really the best way. So we would be more than happy to accommodate any visits. Okay.
We're coming.
All right. Thank you.
We missed them.
Perfect. So we are left with no answer, but thank you. No, it's all good. Just, compromise. At this point, we're going into information discussion. It is 8:41. I would like to take a 4-minute break. You take action. Oh, I'm sorry. You take action. Thank you, man. So with the change that was put in place, which is September 18th is moved to the 16th, and we maintain and firm up the September 25 date. Do I have somebody accepting the change?
Actually, John Paff, President Paff, what was decided about the site presentation?
The decision was it's not decided.
Okay, yeah. Then I'm up to date. Thank you.
Perfect compromise, right? Nothing's been done. Thank you.
I move we accept the board meeting calendar with the adjustments you just stated.
Second. Motion made by Christy Dawson, seconded by Dr. Rivera. All in favor? Aye.
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 Thank you. I didn't ask for public comment. It's after the fact. Any public want to comment on the calendar? It would be unusual. Okay, it is 8:42, 8:43. I'd like to come back at 8:48, please. We need a couple-minute break. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Forward, we have an action discussion. PGUSD quarterly update. Ms. Martinez.
Good evening, everybody. I'm fine with just my name. I don't need to have my face lights. How are you? Thank you. So my name is Barbara Martinez. I'm Director of Safety for Unified as well as the Adult School Principal. And I'm here to give an update, my quarterly update to the board regarding school safety. So tonight we're going to talk about where everything is located. I'm sure you know that, but we do have new staff that would like to know where they can locate everything. Our website, we're going to talk about some professional development that our admin team has gone through, as well as our new teachers and our staff. We're also going to talk about our site safety meetings at each one of our sites. Each one of our school sites has a calendar of all of their coffee with the principals and their site safety meetings. I'll give you a document that tells you about that, and all of that can be put on our website as well. We'll give you an update on our crossing guard situation, how many we've hired, where we've placed them, and we thank Human Resources for doing such a great job pulling that together. And then finally, I'm not going to reiterate anything about our update with the COVID safety plan. I just want to remind everybody that we do have the dashboard, that plans are being updated and implemented and changing, seems like daily. And we want to say thank you to our site administrators for really working with Matt Kelly and Dr. Porras in implementing all of the safety protocols. With that being said, I'm going to try something here. So that's not where I wanted to go the first time, but I will use this. So about 4 weeks back, we had our district safety meeting with all of our new staff. And this is where we went over our big 5 safety protocols. So as you go down, we have 5, the big 5. We have shelter in place, drop, cover, and hold on, secure campus, lockdown, barricade, and evacuation. Some of our school sites have already participated in some of these drills. I had the opportunity to attend Forest Grove for, they had an evacuation fire drill where they evacuated their entire campus in 3 minutes. All students were accounted for, and it was very effective. So this is our district website. But now this is just one of those things, but the County Office of Monterey County Office of Education requires all of our school sites to submit their school safety plans by March of every year for the following year. So it's kind of interesting. So last March, our site principals and their site safety committees met and reviewed and amended their site safety plans. And if you go to the website, you have, and the community can have access to all of our site plans. They're all been updated and they will be reviewed by site safety committees throughout the year to make amendments by March 1st. Is a living document, all the way to the top. These are our Pacific Grove Unified School District site safety meetings, and it's our drill calendar. So if this will be posted on our website, this will tell our community members as well as all of our staff, the district office personnel, our school board, exactly what site is listed, all of the dates of their safety committee meetings, as well as their coffee with the principal, where they will review all of the big 5 safety protocols with the community, invite law enforcement so that they can give presentations as well. We'll also get a list of all of our safety committee members, and then a link to their site safety plans. And if I scroll down, you will be able to see all of our school sites within the district, all of the dates and times and locations of all of their meetings for safety for this year. And you're welcome to attend any one of those. Okay, so our crossing guard update. All right, we have, first of all, I want to say thank you. I want to thank you all to all of our district office staff and site administration and our community members for volunteering to go out there. We knew we had a need to help our littles across the street and our families across the street before, during, and after school. Our administrative team rallied from our district office as well as our community members and met the need of every post. There were 3 times a day, several different locations. So based on that, we did interview several candidates. We did hire 3 crossing guards for 3 locations in the district, 2 at the high school, 1 at the 5 stop signs, 1 at the crosswalk with the 19th Street, and 1 for Robert Camp. So we're excited. And from that, just from me, in my own perspective, volunteering at Robert Down, I saw so many cool but strange things happen in the morning and afternoon. And so I thought, okay, so I think that it might behoove us to really talk about this, not only at coffee with the principals, but have this on our website, talk about it with parents, really be the role models, really be the ones who are walking the walk and demonstrating safe behavior in the morning, before school and after school. So we created this document when walking to and from school, what we should be seeing and what we should not be seeing when driving to and from school, what good behavior drivers should model, and what we should be watching out for. It's always nice to have law enforcement out there. I don't necessarily know if seeing red lights every day is really going to be a solution to the problem. We really should model this when staff is parking, use the crosswalk and park in places where it's legal. So this will also be posted on our safety tab on the district website and also be spoken to with parents. So today I spoke about, I want to make sure I hit everything. I hit the 1-pager, I hit the meetings, crossing guards, safety reminders, and then finally the COVID safety plan update. You know, it does take a village, and we really, this whole town has rallied around safety, and just tonight's meeting for me personally means so much more than the bulleted items that I just reviewed. I really do want to say that we not just as district safety person, but as all of the administration here really value the safety and well-being of all of our students, and we're going to continue to follow the guidance of health department as well as the state, and do our very best to make sure our students are masked inside, outside. You know, I was talking to a parent the other day, and I said, even our littlest 18 months old to 2-year-olds are wearing their masks. And the parent said to me, well, that's all they know. And it's true, you know, that's all they know, and it's easy for them. It's harder for an adult to wear this mask, even through a 2-hour board meeting or 3-hour board meeting. And our littles are it's just a piece of clothing to them. They put it on and they wear it all day long. So I think we're doing a fantastic job, the best we can, and we're going to continue to do so. So I would just continue, if you have questions, to check the dashboard, check the safety tab on the district website, stay involved with your school, call your principals, and just ask for updates as we go along. Matt, did I hit anything else? All right, I have nothing further. If you have any questions.
Very much. I have no questions. We'll just walk around the room, guys. It's awesome.
Well, it's always nice to hear your updates, and it's the crossing guards. I know it's been a hot button, so like you said, we're so lucky community members and to keep it in our consciousness and moving forward. So thanks for a real thorough job here.
Dr. Rivera.
Thanks for the presentation and seeing how it is in front of Robert Down in the morning. It's just, it warms my heart to see volunteers, to see you out there with the cross guard. It's just, I love this community. Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks, John. Hi, Barbara. Can you go over again? Can you tell me, I think you said it, we do have crossing guards hired and implemented, or we're working on it?
Affirmative, I believe we're waiting board approval on some of the candidates moving forward. We're right.
I see, okay, but the crosswalks are being manned by, or womaned by volunteers at this time. So they're not empty. We're just waiting for the hiring to take place. Is that right?
So, yes.
Okay, great. And then the packet, it only has the cover sheet. So I was trying to read what you were sharing your screen on about the traffic safety. Do you mind? Where is it on the website? I'm on the website right now.
It's not there yet. It would be after this presentation. I can email it to you as soon as I take a seat.
Oh, okay. Well, once it goes up, I'm sure the district will send out a message to all parents, right? And since I'm a parent, I'll get it. Okay, I don't mind waiting as a parent for that. I do like the idea of reiterating the safety, really the safety procedures that we kind of all need to address at the crosswalk. So that's really good. I see Big Fives on there again. We've had that program for several years now. So that makes sense, and it sounds like it's working as well as it can for our district. And can you tell me just really fast what your COVID safety plan update was?
I just gave a brief update regarding the when you have to isolate, all of the you caught me off guard. Just the differences, every update that we get on a weekly basis, all of the work that Matt Kelly's done and the team has done working with Department of Public Health and all of the updates for them. Talked about the dashboard as you did at the beginning of the meeting and all of the resources on the safety tab.
Okay, and then I don't know, maybe Ralph can guide me if this is the topic time to mention it, but we did have so many written communications from families about the COVID safety, about the COVID safety plan content. So it was, about questions about modified quarantine, clarifications, things like that. And so, so what are we doing to kind of address those needs that the families, there were really valid needs. I think we can all agree that the procedures, when you're in a stressed out moment as a mother or father or caregiver, and you've been told that your child has possibly been exposed, you're kind of in this panic mode. So what are we doing to make that clearer, more succinct for families?
So Trustee Swanson, seems like every few days we get some fantastic templates that come out from the County Department of Health. And it's actually, it's a visual. We have some excellent visual templates that our site administrators that have been given by Dr. Porras. And we share them with our families. So for a specific example for myself, I've had several staff members and family members of our children in our adult school who may have been exposed to somebody who was positive with COVID. The question may be, Principal Martinez, I want you to know that I have been exposed to somebody who tested positive for COVID, and I have had full vaccinations. I want to know what I should do. And so we give them a template. You put in a prescriptive description of what you are going through, and it will tell you, do you isolate? Do you not have to isolate? What do you do if you are vaccinated? What do you do if you're not vaccinated? So those types of templates are being shared with families, district families, and staff. And they're
Yeah,
very,
I've seen those on the website. Okay. Yeah, I just, as a trustee, we are representatives for the community, and I will say that the community has been reaching out through board emails and other ways just to let us know that they're really struggling right now on the clarity. And I don't necessarily think it's anybody's fault that they're trying to put together unclear information. I think it's just a lot of information that's constantly changing. So I was hoping maybe there was some remedy like a snapshot fact sheet or something that can kind of go out to families, but maybe we're not there yet. I don't know, but I do know there's a lot of confusion and angst, and I'm just trying to think of ways to solve it, and I'm sure you all are thinking about that too. So that is the end of my comments.
Trustee Carolyn, we have been working on that. In fact, we were working on that today before the board meeting. We have some new graphics that we're going to use that is from a different county health department, which is a little more clear than what our current county health department has to offer. We're trying to vet those and make sure they're following the directives that we need within our county, but they're easier to read. Nurse Hallie has been working on, along with us, been working on a sort of an update in terms of clarification of what those steps are, and for families as well. Just that it's taking time to get that taken care of. But we are working on it. We're working on it today. Hopefully have something out either tomorrow or by Monday.
Thank you so much, Dr. Portas.
Thank you very much. Barbara, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any public comments? I have seen Ms. Pelk's hand up.
Hi, yes, thank you. I did have some questions and comments about the COVID safety plan, and I want to say first, I really appreciate all the hard work that has been done on that plan, and I also appreciate Trustee Swanson, your comment about the need for even more communication and clarity for parents. My one specific question that I wanted to bring up is that now that we are unfortunately in fire season, in addition to dealing with COVID, has there been, or is it possible to get an update on efforts to either update the upgrade the HVAC systems so that they can take MERV 13 filters or get portable HEPAs or do something so that we can keep the air safe in terms of both smoke particulates and COVID at the same time?
Okay, so the question that I heard was, can we upgrade to MERV 13? And I believe that has been reviewed substantially in the spring, but we can get further information out. And we move on to information discussion B. Review of the 2021-22 education budget, Assembly Bill AB 130. Jim Bendu.
Thank you. So we're going to talk about the 21-22 budget by Governor Newsom. It's kind of interesting, this budget process. On June 25th, the legislature released a summary of a revised 21-22 state budget. And that only reflects partial view of the governor. And then when the governor signed to it 4 weeks later on July 16th. So it's kind of interesting where the legislature will release part of the budget, which obviously has been agreed upon with the governor. And the primary reason at that time to earlier release before July 1st is because school was going to start. So it's the governor and legislature releases what I call junior bill. by the junior bill. And then with kind of supplemental or underscore bill to include the previous version and clarify the initial budget bill. So the key education sticking point this year will be independent study, concentration plans, which will impact LCMF school district, which is local control funding formula, and Stern PERS childcare. What I listed here is mostly the sticking point that will impact us specifically as a Grove Unified School District, especially as a basic ed school district. And as we all know, the recall election impacts the, of course, political calculus of many decisions of the government. The governor increased 1.6 billion is an outward adjustment to current year being the 2021, and then we use that to project into the 21-22. And we know the largest tax revenue sources would be the big three: personal income tax, sales and use tax, and corporate tax. Well, the interest, all three of them continue surge and continue to surge. Now, the state budget, the general fund, is inclusive of proposition 98 as well. It's almost 204 billion, and expenditure is 196.4, leaving a surplus of 6.4. Now, when you do the math, it's not 6.4. That's not a question mark, but I guess for the state, this is how I balance the books. And I asked school services, I didn't get an answer yet. So as a publication of the presentation. So, but it just for my own gratification, I still like to see the state, do the math correctly. General fund reserves is exceed 20 billion, and that triggers quite a bit number of things. So this number one, of course, the biggest one is the gap limit, which means the appropriation is more than the spending level of 7879. And the other thing is will impact LCF school districts more than us. Medium or large district, they will need to limit the reserve to no more than 10% of the annual expenditures. And this, of course, is 21-22 school year. And interestingly enough, we did not hear quite a bit of LCF school district because last year, all the school districts got a lot of money from the state and federal government in terms of stimulus funds. They could use it to supplement or supplant. On certain occasions, they could use it as supplant. So that leaves a lot of school districts with high reserves. Some of them even higher than basic ed school districts. And now we don't know what this is going to manifest in terms of limitation of the reserve. It's no longer only 10%, because when a good year is up, is kind of ready to expected that there's going to be some down years in the future. So it would be limited to 10% is going to be risky. But that's to LCF school districts. Small and basic school district are exempt. We exempt from this limitation of 10% reserve. It's a good year for LCF school district. They get what's called super COLA. Cost of living adjustments more than 5%, 5.07%. That is actually a percentage on last year where the government did not give a COLA, and then he made it up this year. So coupled with last year's and this year's is total of 5.07%. And then it's also there's a B that's missing in the second bullet there. It's 1.1 billion concentration grant increase, and that's also helping LCF school districts, especially dealing with low income, forced youth and student youth population, student population. One-time funds. This is the area that we always watch it very carefully because if anything that money is going here, it will already benefit us as a basic school district. But this year is only to help LCF to pay off the defaults. Last year, the government deferred quite a bit of money, which means the state will set up a payable to school districts, but the school districts do not get cash until this calendar or this school year. So it's good appropriations were promised, and then school districts, in order to survive, cash like they had to borrow. They had to go out and to borrow cash. If you have more and more students going to the pool, then you have lesser amount of opportunities, but also costs will go up, interest costs. So there are, implications when you have to go out and market and borrow. But in that area, one-time funds, the government did not do other things that will help or benefit basically students. The other thing in the government's budget is rebenching with, about 98. The universal transition kindergarten, which we're going to see in the next slide. And this is what the government in the budget as well. Before we talk about TK, the transition the next few years, let's take a quick look about standalone categorical programs. These are the areas that will help somewhat us, so basically school district. The number one is the CT grant, Career Technical Education Incentive Grant. There's no COLA. Then unfortunately, he kind of breaks it down into 3 groups: one with a COLA, one with a medium COLA, and then one with a super COLA. For this one here, there's no cost of living adjustment, meaning what school districts received in last year, you would get the same amount. Unfortunately, there's no adjustment for inflation. But for us, we get a little bit over $100,000. And this is a grant that we have to earn, meaning we have to spend in order to get money. The next group is for us is child nutrition. As we all know by now, that the government has extended just this year, but also into next year for free meals, lunch and breakfast. And we will get a good response to the new programs. And the service program is really experiencing not just serving really predictable, really regular meals to the kids, but also a regular income, which will help us fiscally. For us, in a normal year, we get about $180,000 in federal reimbursement claims. It's about, but for the state, it's kind of small, anything from up to $16,000. Block grants. This is something that we have participated the last few years. We received a fix around $79,000. In prior years, the governor had an option for students to say we can really file unfunded claims, but we're going to put into a law to pay you back in out years money. A lot of school districts, high percentage participating in this program. Get your money now is better than later promise by the state. The next one is a special ed. We what year for special ed is that we get also via the SELPA, where all the school districts together join this consortium SELPA, that the portion will get really an upgrade of 4.05%. And for us, we received about $840,000. So even though that all the unit members and LEAs within the SELPA will share into that, but still you get to share with the program, which is a good thing. Because as we all know, general fund unrestricted program contributes to special ed program because what the mandates from the federal government really do not come with corresponding revenue. So it's always local revenues we have to make up for all the stuff that we're providing to our kids. This is what we talked about earlier, TK. The government is proposing this is going to be phased into over 4 years. This is the last one will be by 25 to 26. Essentially creating a 14 grade level. The first one is next year, 22-23. And for students of children who are reaching 5th birthday between September 2nd and February 2nd, they'll be eligible. And then the next year will be between September 2nd and April 2nd. Which means every year it will be going sooner by about 2 months. And in 24-25 by June 2nd, and then 25-26 September 1st will be the birthday and 4th birthday. So what does this mean to all the school districts? So we have to maintain, those school districts will have to maintain an average of not more than 24 pupils per school site. And we know we are lucky to share that in our schools from TK through third grade, which most school districts, could be over 24. We are around or under 24 pupils per school site. But commencing 22-23, an average of at least one adult per 12 pupils for TK classrooms. At this point, the government has not clarified, is it teacher and instruction aide, but it just said one adult per 12 pupils for TK classrooms. And in 23-24 would be one adult per 10 students for TK classrooms. And of course, with the caveat subjective population. If the economy is still going strong, then obviously this will be implemented. But if the macro economy is adjust by then, we don't know where it's going, where it's headed. What the government did not address that we as a basic expenditure would like to hear is about any additional funding for school STIRs and PERS. The government did not provide any additional money for security. We've done what he has already done for 21-22. What he said was that in the last year's budget, he had redirected funds already to help with the long-term unfunded liability for 2021 and 21-22. For us, this will be the last year in our budget to deal with where we have to increase our budget, which we have done that. We got the budget presented to the board in June. We have done that to reflect the increased STIRs and PERS rates. Just real those two pension bodies have experienced phenomenal increase in returns, investment returns. So as far as STIRs, because it's mandated by the legislature, we do not expect to be an adjustment. However, for PERS, there's a chance because the rate is set by the outwards board. So if the returns are really high and they're experiencing surplus, there's a chance the rate can be adjusted back. Right now, it's pretty high for outwards rate. And it's applicable to classified employees, but the rate is higher. Independent study, we're going to a lot of details because we have a contract with North Monterey County Unified School District, but this is not a traditional independent study program. This is really a robust program, which some of the things that stated here, the new rules, for example, you really have a live instruction interaction and synchronous instruction each day. It's not every other day. It's not like this is really really close to being an in-person instruction. Also required PG emissions criteria, and UC is approved by UC and the CSC campus. And then if the also LEAs upon request by parents within no later than 5 instructional days, the transition has to be made, has to be granted. So those are some of the things. It must be also during the first day of instruction of the school year, we have to make this available to parents, and which is what we did. We enter into a contract with North Monterey County USD. Questions?
Ms. Swanson this time. Any questions?
Thank you, Song. I don't have any questions.
Dr. Rivera?
Thank you for your presentation. I don't have any questions.
Ms. Dawson?
To what they've said, and I just love that you break it down so it's bite-sized for us because it's so complex, and for you to go through and pick out what's most important, I just appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Well, how is the additional PK going to affect their school site?
well, we're gonna have to consider staffing and facilities.
Roughly the same number of PK as kindergarten, or is it? It's available to anyone, but it's optional.
It's optional, but available. So I think people will take advantage of it. It's gonna have an impact, I think, on the local preschools, the private schools, because why pay if you can have it free?
Yeah.
And so I think it's certainly gonna have an impact. What we're gonna have to do is start budgeting in. We'll have to take a look at what the interest is gonna be and start budgeting in how it's gonna.
We're gonna go back and look at the single site.
We can certainly consider that. We've talked regularly over the past few years in regards to, do we want to move them all to one site and have an early childhood center, which is definitely workable for this kind of situation. So nothing's off the table. We start figuring out what we
want to make a rational assumption is the number of students. It's what we got. And I have no other questions. Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. Public comment and public question. No. Thank you. Go to review of the 2021, 2021, estimated property tax revenue.
Okay. Number 2 funding, this is about property tax dollars. This is an update to 2021 projected versus actual receipts, and also to take a look at our 21-22 budgeted dollars. In terms of process, the assessor's office, they send out a roll every January 1st. Last year, because of the pandemic, happens in March, so the roll was sent out before 3 months before it happened. So it does an indication when you look at the numbers, meaning if their families of homeowners who asked for adjustments did not get that, because meaning they got the tax bill, the roll was already done, even though they got the tax bills in October for December and April payments, they did not get an adjustment from the assessor's office. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. So let's start off a little bit about assessed valuation. This is the first step that we do when we look at how much we're going to get in terms of property tax dollars. This is by TRA, tax revenue area, or it's by parcels, right? We look at here. We have the code is what we pertain to or applicable to Pacific Unified School District. We have like about 78 pages of this from the assessor's office. So I would pick up, the gross applicator TRAs to us. And then we put in the value here. This is the gross amount, and then with the weight, TRA weight per parcel area region. So within this region is 004,000, we have 7,487 parcels. So from that region, we get our share is about a little bit over 16.5 million. It's just showing change. So as you go down here, here's a projected dollar amount. Now this is to give us a benchmark to see what we're expecting for next year. But this is only the first parameter for us to look at what our budget is going to be next year. There are a lot of behind the scenes calculations, look at the trend analysis, and also look at the actual receipt. So because this is just your global to say, and by TRAs, PGUSD, this is pretty much in the ballpark that we get. So this is by TRA. The next thing what we do is we look at tax receipts, actual receipts. This is number 2, one of the 2 methods, but not due 2 methods because again, they do a lot of internal analysis. So we look at 1718, 1890. This is the chart you can fit in this number of columns. On our website, we have older reports going into older years, then you see 16, 17, 15, 16, and so on and so on. But this is what we have as a comparison. So we need to revisit 2021 and see how we performed. in July because the last posting of actual receipts happened in July. So it's the second interim, which is in March, that we presented to the board based on assessors telling us, based on our internal calculation, also based on our receipts and prior year, we came with an estimate of $29.25 million for us for the school year of 2021. When it happened, when the school year finished in July, we got more dollar amount. We got $29.666,244. And that happened, and we were presented at the next board meeting when we closed the books and we drilled down to the detailed analysis showing where that money came from. And we know at this point, some of the increase came from delinquency. And it's something that we could not predict, and neither could the auditor controls office, because it's something that really primarily I would say it's because of the pandemic. You know, even if deferral or forbearance of homes, there's some school-related payment. It's unfortunate, but as a basic expenditure, it's benefited from that. The big chunk of the increase came from that. What I could talk about is we projected 4.15% in June for the new budget year. Based on the many criteria that we look at, and this is what we landed, 30 point, a little bit over almost 30.5 million, 30,468,398. But now, with the assessor's office, what he's projecting is 3.16 for the region increase. The low came about 3.16, but for us, the realized percentage of increase for PGUSD 3.2. Remember, we have a region, so we get a small piece of the pie, so we don't really get the real gross rate for the whole region. So earlier, we talked about how the macro economy impacted PGUSD. Why is it that we say actually went down so much? Because the roll in January of last year, 2020, did not get adjusted. We have commercial properties, specifically Spanish Bay and Lakes, and several commercial properties asked for really a huge downgrade of the assessed valuation. So that impacted this year's roll with January 2021, which means those property owners who will pay the taxes by December and April will get a much lower tax bill. Therefore, that kind of really a domino effect to all the entities benefiting from this assessment. So it's 3.12 instead of 4.15. So obviously our first question is, oh my gosh, right? What does that mean to us? Dance it into a few lines because you see a lot of numbers. Go back real quick to here. You see a month to month because we just not look at a full year, but we also look at every month to compare. We see the projected dollars versus actuals. So for 2021, we look at 5.14. The rate has gone up. So we gained $411,000, which will break down in the next board meeting to tell you how much is actually delinquency, how much is interest and penalty. But also attention is on next year, this new budget year 21-22. A budgeted percentage was 4.15, 3.12, and yet is the rate of decline or decrease of 1.02%, and yet the dollar amount is increased because of the base year higher. Because of course, we see that those homeowners did not get the reduction in assessed valuation. When in time for the assessor to adjust, they were paying higher in property tax dollars. So they kind of carried into the new year, and we have from that, even though a lower percentage, we still get a higher dollar amount. But it's only a growth a little bit under $122,000. Our 30 million is not much, but $122,000 increase for this year. So this is a real brief update about property tax dollars for us for this current year and also what it means for the next year. Just real quickly, the next when we And the year after, 22-23, because when we bring back the budget revision and also the first interim, not just have to deal with 21-22, we have to deal with 22-23 and 23-24. And by law, we have to work on not just current budget year, but 2 subsequent fiscal years. We'll talk about 22. He's an assessor. He's a little bit optimistic because the inflation factor is also higher in the next year. Not this current budget year, but it will be restored to 2% up to the maximum 2%, which we kind of generally know this factor as public safety 13, where it cannot go up to maximum 2% each year increase. So the assessor calls that inflationary rate. But for 21-22, not only adjustment of the commercial property dollars, the assessed valuation, but also the inflation factor is only 1%. That is state by state board equalization. So for this year it's 1%, next year it goes back to 2%. So we will expect that we'll adjust it up a little bit in terms of the growth.
So early on, you said that the 6.62 is in it's an increase because of penalties and interest delinquency payments. Is that correct?
Yes, most of that
Do
is.
you know what amount of penalty is that separated out?
Yes.
That is one-time money and really should not be multiplied by 3.12%.
That's correct. That's correct.
Like slightly overestimating right there. That's really 5% plus 1% delinquency extent.
Sure, yes, that's a regular observation. When we look into the details, when we look at every line, the secure and non-secure homeowners exemption, and then the penalties will.
Based on penalties, interest, and delinquency. It has been a relatively constant number, and with good reason, you know. Look out, it's all over.
And exactly something because of the, basically what he said is because of the rule that set out in January. Is in a way it's over valuation. Unfortunately, even though the property owners appeal, they have really no right when the law is set. Drop so much, and it, you know. Well, 6.62 is by chance overvaluation of the loans.
Yeah, it just makes that 121,000.
That's true.
That's better.
Right. Well,
maybe not that suspect, you know, we'll have to know the difference, so you can decide if you want to send that or not. Yeah. That's all I have. It is tentatively good news. Thank you very much. We started with Ms. Swanson. We'll start with Dr. Rivera.
No questions. Thank you very much.
Ms. Dawson.
No questions at this time. Thank you.
Ms. Swanson.
Thanks, John. It is relatively good news, precarious going into the next couple years, I think. So I'm glad that we have Song working on it and that she's very conservative. And that's it.
Public comments?
Great. Thank you so very much.
And we'll move on to information discussion D, which is CBED's projection for the first week of school. What happened to our children?
Item number 3, enrollment projection. Let's see. First, slides. Okay. Okay, I'll go to my live report. We'll have many tabs into here. Okay, so let's go to see that with that. This we presented to the board in January because we wanted to see where we had, each on each school year ends. So we got this in January, and then we come back again in March or April, talking about budget assumptions. This is one of the assumptions, even though we base it with school district, enrollment numbers do not really bring us additional revenue, not like LCFF school districts, based on ADA average daily attendance, but still it will impact the expenditure equation of the ledger because higher number of students, obviously we need more staffing, but also in terms of ADA revenue line, because we do get more money from lottery, because lottery is based on ADA average daily attendance. For utilities, well, it's one of them is discretionary to spend the money in lottery. The other is restricted, and we can only use it for textbooks and for funds. Those two areas rely on our ADA. So obviously, the higher ADA we have, the better in terms of getting extra money from the state. So for 21-22. We will have a summary page in a bit, but in terms of projected number, it was 8 months ago. We said we would expect to see 1,928 number of students, but as we know, that did not happen. So here we are. This is 21-22. Now we look at not only school by school, grade level by grade level as well, but we also track it by closer, not only the days, but also the month. For us, the first day and the fifth day. The first day, because we were still in the midst of updating synergy reports, we didn't really have the number of students updated yet. Therefore, we show the fifth day data, and also in our board cover, we talk about the sixth day, because the fifth day, because of publication of the report packet, we could not wait until the sixth day. So we were comparing the fifth and the sixth day in the work packet. But what we can do, and let's take a look at the summary right here. What we did here, you can see early a lot of details, but here at least a summarized level. 16, oh, I'm not sure.
I think they're following in the board. You run a roll.
So sorry.
There you go.
Okay, did you guys get to see the earlier?
We were with it.
Okay, you want to go back? Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah. Okay. So the summarized, this is a summary level of the CDET. This is the first Wednesday of each October. Starting, I just put out 16-17. We have many years going back. And also show the projected and then show the actual as a big 5. But let's take a look at the total. The total since 16-17, we can see incrementally has declined the total number of students. For 2021, we said with CBS were 1922, but projected we thought because of course survival, what we did was say, okay, TK will go into first into second, and so on and so on. So we were projecting 1,928 students for district-wide. As of day 5, we were at 1,805, and then at day 5, we had 18 preschool applications approved. But today, I believe it's gone up to more than 20. The last 2 days ago, we checked with Denise, was 20, it's up to 20, and then 21, 22. So this is where we stand. Day 5, 1805, and then plus 18 students, 1822. And we short of 99 students. Not sure. Lower by 99 students since last year. And it just anecdotally, we heard about a lot of families is more move out of the area. They could move to other state, they could move just out of the region. But nonetheless, we have fewer number of students.
Those numbers approach where we were about 15 years ago. Question?
Yeah, Brooke, I have a question for you, if I may. Just I noticed that just while down, I've been meaning to ask this for a couple of years, so real quickly. The distribution of students, I know at RHB, it looks like the teachers are within 1 and 2, and I noticed in your 3rd and 4th grade, discrepancies of 5 or 6 kids between the teachers. I've always assumed that's a special ed consideration, and kids that are more challenging are in one class, so therefore you light. And I just wanted you to let me know if that's accurate or.
Sure. One of the things that we do with our special day class program is that the students that are in that program push into the gen ed setting for a portion of the day. And so some of the classes will look a little bit larger than the others because 3 to 5 students may be pushing into a class. So their numbers will look higher than the other 5 classes when those students will be spending a good part of the morning in the special day setting.
Sure.
And then they include with the other classes.
That's what I always thought, but I want to verify. Sure. Thanks for explaining that. Yeah, it's amazing the numbers. I mean, that's hopefully educational excellence shows up because I mean teachers always like smaller numbers. There's more intimacy and get more things done. So hopefully we see that. But it's a lot of kids. Thank you.
Swanson.
Thanks, John. So my question is kind of weird. I see our declining enrollment, and I know we had a really strange year last year. I know we're having a strange year this year. It's nobody's fault. It's a pandemic. But as a board, and maybe we talk about this at our goals meeting, I mean, is one of our priorities to retain our students? Is one of our priorities to increase enrollment so that we can have more robust programming? Would we want to do something like exit interviews for families when they're leaving and find out, hey, maybe this is an affordable housing issue. Maybe it's something else. Maybe they are just moving because they're in the military. I just think there's so much information to be gathered from this. I would be interested in knowing more about why we're having declining enrollment.
Ms. Watson, Dr. Rivera.
I just want to say thank you for breaking it down into class sizes. It's really helpful to be able to see that, so you can keep an eye on that. That's all. Thank you.
So, for public comment this time.
Yeah. The
mic, please.
So Margaret Rice, and my question is, do our students that are in our district, am I understanding it correctly that they don't count towards our enrollment? They count to North Monterey's enrollment.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Following up on that, there was briefly, the request was made earlier to make sure they receive PGUSD announcements still, and we make sure that's protected.
Once we're in academia. That's not it.
Eric Chavez, I just wanted to clarify on the numbers. We actually do have 2 kinders in Miss Bloomer's SDC class at Robertstown, because I know because I'm in the contact class. Yeah, that we have to update that part. Okay, the 8 student will spread to white class.
Okay. Thank you very much. So, public comment on screen. Thank you, Shinben did, and that'll be interesting. I guess the only thought I have is what's the relationship between students and housing prices? Right, and we can spend some time. Probably easier to simply ask the realtor what the housing price is. Bunch of information discussed new, which is future agenda items. As I discussed earlier, Ralph, I think when we plan, we should go ahead and put in information discussion, the regular COVID update for a little while longer and get that back. I think based on the discussions earlier today, we should be looking at our discrimination policies in general. I think we already have that down as a forward note, possibly including additional training for staff and additional speakers brought in and training programs for students.
And I'll just tell you that we are, when we work with high school staff, counselors, teachers, we're going to set up a game plan for how we're going to proceed forward. Now, that's not necessarily a policy decision, but it's not a policy. We're moving forward in terms of next steps, actions, perhaps talk with USD and Carmel, maybe we can do some joint efforts together, have some discussion and figure out what the next best dialogue is, and so we talk to our students as well. So that discussion will happen.
When do you think we would be able to present a plan?
I think they,
Before I do that, board, I think we're in consensus for looking for that, correct?
I can't hear anything you guys are saying right now. I'm sorry. There's wrestling. There's I don't know if there's talking into the mic, but I'm sorry. I don't know what you guys are saying.
The idea is that we would end up with a COVID update. Beginning of intro discussion, we'll bring that back. We are not answering.
Okay, great.
Ralph in any manner in what he's presenting. And that based on our public comment that we would review our policies and bring that back along with the program and basically the start of the program. And it's not policy at this point, but for training, Ralph continued and said yes. So we already have plans in place to start discussions with Cornell and Monterey Peninsula. And I think there is consensus since there is not just an I in team. And I just wanted to get consensus among the other board members that that was a suitable action item.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So, Dr. Rivera, do you have anything that you'd like to see in this direction?
I don't think this would be the students have already full loads with their classes, but I think that it's important that we have our students learn critical thinking skills and how to navigate social media and the internet. We've seen how this has affected adults about the events of January 7th. It's something that we should train our students and that they could be prepared in life as it is right now, and then especially when they do this. So I don't know if it could be considered, maybe Director Silva would look into our English maybe developing a new module in an existing course. I think developing an entire new course might be Starting the discussion. I think we should have it.
Of course, I think that if you will, we can include that with our CRA here. We've already been kind of sending those back and forth, but that certainly makes sense, and I think that could be part of that conversation. We're just gonna need some time to debrief this with staff and talk a little bit about what our next steps are. We don't want to rashly just jump into conversations. And I think that's a great idea, and I think that may be a good concept for that conversation as well. So to give us a little time, we'll bring this back to the high school staff to talk through some of these pieces of it, and then we can give you all an update and hone that in. It won't be a long time.
No. Well, I want to encourage that. I know earlier we were talking about not wanting to overburden the sites. This is a big deal, and I think you need time to kind of flesh it out. There are a lot of programs out there and opportunities, and I totally think you take the time you need to find and to address, to hear from the admin at the different sites, what would be most helpful for them in the development of these programs and changes throughout the district. I think it's great.
Okay, Dr. Rivera, thank you very much. I think there's consensus. Before it says that as an item. Watson, any future agenda you'd like?
I think you guys are looking at me. Did you ask me a question? I don't hear a thing.
What's that?
Okay, the audio's back. What did you say?
To be a future agenda item.
Oh, I think what I heard you guys saying is that you are going to place some equity type programs on the future agenda items, and that is so exciting to me. Thank you for placing that on there. And then I did just make a note, but I just want to say it again, the COVID update, please put that back on the agenda. It's so valuable for our community and for, it's already on there?
It's already on.
Excellent. Okay, wonderful. And I will send an email with some of the programs that have been mentioned to me and that I have found, like CSBA actually has an equity training specifically for boards. So I think there's a lot of layers here that we can really grow from, move forward, and try to heal some of this pain in our community. So thank you guys for being willing.
Thank you, Ms. Swanson. Ms. Dawson? Nothing. Any member of the public wishing to come up? It's 9:50. Anybody online before we call it? It's 9:58. We are adjourned. Thank you all very much.